Okay, this worked well. Okay, it didn't freaking. Oh, thank God.
They fixed it.
Yeah, folks, welcome back to Orange Hat. It's been a good while. I did a impromptu stream earlier with fucking around with some friends, and there's a new streaming feature where you can actually stream this on other streams. A friend of mine, or I was able to stream my friend's Anime Nights stream onto my channel. Now I also put age restriction on that because well, we were discussing some stuff that was pretty fucking heavy. And I would definitely get demonetized if I ever did that again. So anyway, we're back for Tolkien Sundays. We're talking the Two Towers. With me, I got my Fellowship of Orange Hat here. I got Nerd with a Cigar. How you doing, Kate?
Hello, glad to be back. Sorry I missed you guys last week, but I'm here
That's
to
all
talk
right.
about the greatest movie trilogy of all time.
Definitely. And Ambassador Theoden. Ambassador, how you doing?
Yo.
You. And in the chat, we have Davian Donaldson, who is unfortunately unable to be here. I am hearing myself.
Well, yeah, we all hear you.
No, I'm hearing my... Anyway. I'm hearing an echo. I think so.
Don't start.
Don't overuse that. I'm being serious. Anyway,
right.
Hello, Orange. It's Davian. Hope you're doing okay. Sadly, I can't join the stream tonight, but I will definitely catch up on the replay. Definitely one of my all-time favorite fantasy sequels epics ever. Awesome. Thank you so much, Davian. Always glad to have your support. Neozoic. They're taking the hobbits to Isengard. Yes. Howdy, Orange.
The hobbits, 2 Isengard. 2 Isengard.
Yeah. Bad lip reading. The crew and good folks in the chat. It would have to be, or put the link in. They're taking the, yeah, I know. But I can't because of copyright. Yeah, right. And Riot Kitty, thank you for stopping in. Hello. Well, yeah, it was Cards Against Humanity. Yeah, Cards Against Humanity. Yeah. We were playing Cards Against Humanity on my last impromptu stream earlier. And let's just say that it was fun. And yeah, alrighty.
That game is somewhat evil, but not really.
I love it. Anyway.
I do too.
Let's get back to my conversation points.
Your conversation points be, this movie's awesome, this movie's epic, this movie's awesome, this movie's epic, I love this movie, I love this movie, I love this movie.
But more specific and more specific.
Yeah.
I know.
So we're going over the Misty. We're going over the Misty Mountains, and you hear lines from the first movie of battle between Gandalf and the Balrog. And then they go inside, and we are brought back to it. And we see what happens when Gandalf lets go. He goes down to fight the Balrog, and boy, he goes all in. He goes all in. He's like, ah! He just starts hammering this thing, and it's smacking him back. I mean, they're trading blows pretty fairly, and it is. I mean, that is like a rope. You know how you went to those immersive rides at Disney World back in the 90s?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
This is basically what they could have done with this movie at Universal Studios or New Line Cinema or whatever, if New Line Cinema ever had like a Universal Studios theme park. Because oh my god, man, it's like it's like he's dropping and then the camera just goes down, and it was freaking wild.
For being like an early 2000s film,
yeah,
like it still holds up as far as like CGI goes, and like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't look bad in like 2023.
You had a good studio working on it.
Oh yeah, Weta.
Right.
Now, for those of you who don't know, Weta Workshop is named after an actual insect. It's a bush cricket. And
I thought it was
this bush cricket.
Okay, my bad.
No.
Okay, my bad.
This bush cricket is the size of your hand. Like, it could fit on my hand. It is a very big cricket. And
it's huge.
Yeah. So, fun fact there. But the fall and the fight, and it turns out to be essentially a realistic dream that Frodo has. And he ends up waking up. He's like, yeah, no. It's like, dude, yeah, I've woken up like that too. Yeah. Have you guys ever woken up just screaming out?
No.
Like talking, yes. Screaming, no. I used to get a lot of dreams when I played soccer where I would have a dream about somebody kicking me the ball and I would kick it back and I would kick like in my dream, but also in real life and like kick myself awake.
Yeah, I have done that too. I've been fun fact. Hey, Skyhound Gamgee is here. How are you?
Doing good. Sorry I'm late.
All right. That's all right. So, small fact, when I kill billed myself one time when I was asleep where I was fighting in my dream, and apparently I was right up against the wall, and I put my hand into the wall.
Ooh.
And it's like,
jeez, dude.
And it's like, whoa. And I wake up and I'm like, oh shit.
You're like, oh no. I've made a terrible mistake.
Yeah, I'm active in my dreams, folks. I'm very active in my dreams. So when I put my hand in the wall, let's just say that well, I had to pay for it. Because it was at an apartment complex. So yeah, Skyhound, we're going over the fight or the fallen fight with the Balrog. What were your thoughts on it?
That one was actually like pretty straightforward because when I'm thinking about how they tried to explain it in the books, and it's been a while since I've read it, but I think for what it's worth, at least they were able to like cut straight to the chase and not drag it too long, because in the books, I remember bits and pieces of it where Gandalf did realize he had to use the Balrog as a guide because both of them were way down, in the earth, and both had to get out in order to quote unquote continue their fight, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. And he chased that fucker all the way from down the lowest peak to the high, or the lowest dungeon to the highest peak, as he says. Mm-hmm. So then
and then I smoked my enemy on the mountain.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then
upon the mountains.
Yeah.
Darkness
and so
took me.
Later on, we get to that point.
Sorry. I love that moment. Gandalf.
Well, we'll get to it when we get to it. And then I'll let you do it. Okay. So we then get to Sam and Frodo. They're lost on Emyn Wheel. So basically they're going down. I like the scene with the Elvish rope. And it's like,
real Elvish rope?
Can you see the bottom? Can you see the bottom? No, Sam, just keep going. And so you think that Frodo's about to fall, and then he lands, and it's like, I think I found the bottom. And it's like, dude, your accent was hilarious. And so, yeah, he comes down. He's like, what's this? Because Sam's about to drop something. And he's like, oh, no, just a bit of seasoning. I was thinking we were having a roast chicken or something. Roast chicken?
that reaction.
Roast chicken? Where the hell?
It's like,
we gonna find a roast chicken?
When I first saw that, yeah, for real. But he has the conies later, so I guess it helped. But when I saw the fancy box with the seasoning in the books, Galadriel gifts Sam with some of the earth from her soil so he can take it to his garden. And so I was like, no, he dropped Galadriel's gift. But in the movie, they just make it, his seasoning
instead, because he already got the rope made of heathline.
Right.
And I love that. He's like, it's a shame, really. Lady Galadriel gave that. gave me that rope. Real elvish rope. And it's not in 4. It's one of my knots. Won't come free in a hurry. And it comes free in a hurry. And that's the magic of the elvish rope. You can tie or you can use it to its point, and then when you need it to release, the knot will release.
Did you guys, I like when I watched it, I was like, it's almost as if the film was not talking about the magic of the elvish rope, but like as if, but which doesn't make sense because he can't touch it, but like Gollum undid the knot for him. But obviously that wasn't the case. But when I showed it to my friends, they're like, "Oh, Gollum came and undid the knot." I'm like, "No, he can't touch it. It burns his skin." Like, I don't know if it only the people who read the book knew that or knew the elvish lore about, magic ropes and stuff, but I don't know. Just a side note.
But yeah, which we'll actually get into because it's mentioned when Gollum comes around. And they still go, or they're going in circles, and they eventually, Gollum comes upon them. He's like, "Yeah, I smell it." Or Sam thinks it's a nasty bog, but it's like, "Yeah, we're not alone." And that's when Gollum comes in, and they do their little WWF Monday Night Raw. And and the reason why I say that is because when Sam picks up Gollum and Gollum wheels around, grabs him, and when you see Sam's head go back like this, originally shot Andy Serkis headbutt Sean Astin. And instead, it was just him grabbing him by the hair and jerking him, is what we see in the movie. So then he bites him, and it's like, yikes, dude, that might get infected. But
right, you might want to go get a shot for that.
Yeah, right. And so
he's got
one of the things,
he's got Gollum herpes.
Yeah, one of the things I do like about this scene though is that he goes in, but the second he sees the ring, it is like, I haven't seen this in 60 some odd years. I'm going for it. That is mine.
Yeah.
And he almost gets it. Credit to him, he almost gets it. But his focus is just so singular the second he sees it, and it is great. The only thing missing is Jim Ross. Yeah, Jerry Lawler. How would I?
They wouldn't be called WWE. It'd be called MEW, Middle Earth Wrestling.
There you go. Mew.
MEE,
but anyway,
Middle Earth Entertainment.
How would I compare Andy Serkis' Gollum with his other roles, such as Planet of the Apes reboot trilogy, King Kong 2005, Lumpy, and Kong himself, and The Adventures of Tintin, etc. Andy Serkis, I won't say pioneered, but he really helped the mocap industry.
Agreed.
That man was
I'm surprised he's not in more like video games, because I feel like they could use him in, they've kind of used that style of animation and used it for, video game characters and stuff, and it's come a long way for that almost / hyper realistic, video game characters.
I wonder if he's in the new Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes as Cornelius. That would be awesome. But I don't think he will be, because he played Caesar and Caesar died.
Yeah, in the previous films, he did a great job as that character.
He's so expressive, and even when he's not, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Kate. It's all right.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, even when he's not in, just like for a CGI character, like him in Age of Ultron, I thought was really good. He's just very expressive, and he just kind of captures your attention, and I like that about him as an actor. So even though we're seeing, a digital Gollum, his performance really shines through in it.
Well, yeah. Well, think about it. He went from a guy dressed in a
leotard
to being actually regard as a respectable or respected actor. I mean,
Correct.
Andy Serkis
Mm-hmm.
got his start as Gollum, and look what he's done since then. He's done, granted, he's still done mocap work, but look at his performance in, like you mentioned, Age of Ultron and Black Panther, and Andor as Kino Loy for the prison arc. Andy Serkis is, and even as Alfred in the Batman with Robert Pattinson. Andy Serkis is I'd say is a top tier actor. I'd say he's at least a B-lister at the very least. He's that good.
He went from B to A.
And I said B as in boy, not D. Yeah, in a lot of ways. So,
but also Lord of the Rings was not where he got his start. I do believe there was a couple other movies he did that were before Lord of the Rings.
He was in like a bunch of British stuff before, right?
Yeah, I think
like
so.
Low key, not super well known.
There's one movie where he played a person that was warning this woman who got help from a religious group, where she got artificially inseminated, but the children had demon blood put in them.
Wait, what?
So, yeah, he played one of the characters that was very much against that group that helped this mom to have viable embryo.
You got to send me the name of that movie because wow,
I can't remember the name of it. That's the thing. But
I'm gonna IMDb.
hello, Elena. Good to see you. So anyway, Frodo brings out Sting. He's like, "You've seen it before, haven't you, Gollum? Now release him, or I'll cut your throat." And well, to his credit, he releases him, but he starts crying because he realized he just failed at getting the precious. And as Sam ties him up with the elvish rope, he's like, "It burns, it burns, it freezes. Nasty elves twisted it. Take it off us." That's because, well, he's evil. He is indeed very evil. Nothing evil can touch the rope without it burning.
Mm-hmm.
It's
and
almost
that is
like
why
the Lord of the Rings version of like the lasso of truth, but like with more magic and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So he then swears, and Sam are on the precious to help them.
We swear.
Yeah. And well, Sam is the smart one. He doesn't want to believe it at all. But honestly, better to have this creature helping them. The exorcist rope. Right.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. Good one.
Yeah. And so I love it because he's running. He's like, to the gate, Master says. And you then see the duality of Gollum's personality, which I don't think was in the book. I'm not sure. I haven't read Lord of the Rings in quite some time.
It's also been a while since I've read it, but what I like about the way how they show the duality of Gollum, I don't know if I would say it's more like a Jekyll Hyde thing, but I guess it's probably a very common citation for it. But the way how Andy like shows it in the extended version compared to the theatrical, they cut off a certain segment of it, and Gollum's going like, like you said, he's trying to lead them to the gate, and there's a part of him saying, "Is like, no, we can't go back after what we experienced."
Not and there, then, not to him.
Not to him, and then he's kind of like, he just like yells at them for a brief moment.
Yeah. He freaks out because he because Gollum reawakes. He's like, "What? Get the fuck away from me!" But I love that, and he's like, "So much for his promises. That's my hobbits.
Exactly.
Follow me." I love that. It's like, "This way, hobbits. Follow me." I mean, that was basically Smeagol regaining control or getting the reins again, so to speak.
Just because of like Tolkien's religious background, I think he saw it less of like a Jekyll and Hyde or a DID thing. He saw it more of as like the sin you have in your life, or like whatever evil desires you have, they make you do things that are contrary to your own character. Like, he was friends with Deagle before he killed him. but then the
Yeah.
lust for this like sinful nature, if that makes sense,
Yes.
Yeah.
or like carnality, kind of overtook him, and he gave it like whatever wolf you feed becomes the strongest. And so for like
Yeah.
400 years, he was feeding the wolf of the desire for the ring and the precious, and you know what I mean. And so
Oh, yeah.
when Frodo gives him the opportunity to be himself again, even in the presence of the ring, there is that struggle. And I really enjoyed that, like on, and I've seen a lot of people break it down of like mental disorder or things like that. But just
Mhm.
from Tolkien's like religious background, I think it was more of him talking about like just evil in the world and things like that. If that, I don't want to go
Yeah,
on a
the
religious
duality of
tangent, but
innocence and evil.
It makes sense.
right. I don't want to, I don't want to have us have a religious discussion, but just because of like it's based off of Tolkien stuff, I think that's where kind of Tolkien was coming from. Um, and I don't know, in the books I remember it always he doesn't have that like switch back and forth, even though I
No.
liked how they did that in the movies.
Mhm.
Because he was always planning on taking them through the cave to meet Shelob.
Kill him. Yeah.
Right,
He
like
was
that was
always
always
planning.
the plan. It was
Yeah.
always the plan.
Now, one of the things I do also like, if you notice, well, this was more noticeable in the Hobbit movie, is that when he switched between Gollum and Smeagol, look at his eyes. When he's Smeagol, his pupils are more dilated. When
Yeah,
he
they're
is
huge.
Gollum, they go
It's like
cat-like.
pinprick. Yeah, they
Yeah.
go pinprick. And that's basically essentially what it was like in this movie or these movies. I'm gonna actually have to rewatch just to make sure. I'm gonna watch Return of the King later in this week coming up. But I really do like the duality because it shows that this is a being, even though he is pure evil. That's why he went to Mordor. He was he heard the call. He went, because Sauron is summoning all evil to him, Gollum heard that call, and he was
A
even
part
in
of
the presence.
Voldemort lives inside of him. Oh, sorry, wrong
Yeah.
series.
But he also said, or in the books, he actually was in Sauron's presence, and he described Sauron as sitting on a throne, but with one hand missing fingers. He called him like 4 fingers or something like that, or 6 fingers, or I can't remember what it was. Neozoic nerd with a cigar, funny, not. God dang. Not in a haha, you brought that up because in the Fellowship of the Ring, I brought the one ring, or I brought that the one ring represents the sin. Yeah, he did, or Neozoic did bring that up. Hey, fuck
Okay.
Norris, good to see you. Thank you, and thank you for lurking. It helps get the watch time up. I'm always appreciative of those who help. And Riot Kitty, the books are a heavy read. I will give you that right now. The books are a heavy read. The Hobbit you can get through in a day if you really focus. It'll take you days to read each of the Lord of the Rings books.
Definitely. I can attest to that. When I was
The
reading
Hobbit was
the
written
book,
for like 12-year-olds.
It took me roughly about like 3 or 4 days to finish book 2.
Yeah. Yeah. Gollum equals small crackhead.
That's true. Right, Kitty. That was a good one. It's just because too he's so descriptive in his language, like especially in book 2, the Treebeard chapter is like 45 pages long.
Yeah, right?
You're like, oh my god, can we get through this already? Like, geez.
Which is actually in the movie they do later on, which we'll get to. The end note.
Right.
But moving on from Gollum, we get the Fellowship tracking Merry and Pippin, and frickin' gotta hand it to John Rhys Davies, the tallest man in the cast of all of them, and yet he plays the short, or He's one of the shortest. The
Us
dwarf.
dwarves are great in short distances. We're natural sprinters. I was just like, yes.
And not just the way
And I
how he
also
puts it.
Yeah, I also like how he's falling, or they see him coming around and he's falling down the freaking hill. It's like, come on,
Yeah.
Gimli. We're
He's just
here
like
now."
rolls.
Yeah. Like, "Ah!"
days in
2
Yes,
days
I'm
and
No food.
food.
I feel
Rest-
really
no
bad though
rest.
because he
Well,
was
son of a
running
No,
with that like
Eye of our quarry,
Bear can
but
tell.
bear rock can tell.
You were saying, Kate?
Sorry.
oh, he was wearing the helmet the whole time and the
Mhm.
beard and all of that. I was like, man, good on you, dude. Like, way to take it for the
And
team.
remember,
John
folks,
Rhys Davies was
John
commended.
Rhys Davies is allergic to his prosthetic makeup.
The prosthetic.
Why his eyes were always puffy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that
And
explains a lot.
so we then see the scene between orcs and Uruk-hai.
Yep.
And a lot of people are saying, well, orcs can't show up or can't come out during the day. Wrong. Orcs are uncomfortable during the day. They can still run out during the day. It is just not a time that they usually do. They are night creatures mostly.
Mhm.
So them
They're
coming out and
vampires.
running during the day, they have no problem. They are not those fucking rop vampires that they showed in that show that we don't talk about. But we then get to Saruman's assault on Rohan, which is you see the mountain or the mountain men or the wildsmen and the Uruk-hai slaughtering villages. We also fall to Theodred and the slaughter at the fords of Isen, which was part of the extended edition.
Mhm.
Where he finds Theodred and he brings him back to Rohan. To what's the damn town, or what's the damn town's name?
Edoras.
Edoras, yeah.
Edoras.
And
Edoras,
we then see that
yeah.
Edoras. Theoden is basically decrepit due to
He's a zombie.
leechcraft. Yeah, he's
he's a
essentially just a vessel.
Mhm.
He's trapped inside himself.
Like sucked the life out of him, basically, is what Saruman did.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
There it
Screw
was
Saruman.
Grima putting poison in his ear that essentially did this to him. And Grima Wormtongue is played brilliantly by Brad Dourif. No,
Damn
folks,
right.
his eyebrows were shaved off,
Yep.
and that's commitment because
Mhm.
his kid was freaked out
I bet.
whenever he returned home. His wife and kid were freaked out whenever he would return home with no eyebrows. And I'm thinking to myself,
He looks creepy
Dude.
without them.
oh yeah, very much.
Yes.
And I mean, I love that he's like, that is a lie. Saruman has always been our friend and ally. Well, then Éomer drops, he's like, yeah, orcs are roaming across our lands and they're bearing the white hand of Saruman. Drops the helmet. That's the mic drop for Middle Earth, folks.
Literally.
And then you see Miranda Otto, Éowyn just looking down, and then her eyes just says it all. What else do you have to say? Oh fuck. Change
And
the
pretty
subject.
much He was telling Ymir, like, why do you lay these troubles and an already troubled mind?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only
Can you
reason
not
his mind's
see
trouble is because of your
that
master.
father's
Let
anointed
him-
your malcontempt, your warmongering. And
Yeah,
Ymir
and
is
then
like, really ticked off. He's like, warmongering?
Yeah.
How long has it been since Saruman last bought you?
Well,
What
we
was
can't
the
go. All right.
price, Rima?
Yeah.
That when all the men are dead, you would have your share of the treasure?
So yeah, we can't go line for line, because if we go line for line, we'll be here all night.
Yeah, I know.
We'll do choice lines, but sorry, but it's good lines. Don't get me wrong, but
Mhm.
we can't.
The
we
dialogue
can't
in,
go.
in all of these movies
Alrighty.
are
Yes.
very good and super poignant, and some of them make me like tear up, like when Theoden finally comes to and he's talking about burying his kid, and I'm like, you know, like
Well, he's
I don't
right.
know.
But yeah, so
He's got a point.
Éomer is, and the entirety of the Rohirrim, which is 2,000 riders are banished from Rohan because he has seen way too much. He knows way too much. So he gets banished. And so then we are sent to the hobbits and the orcs. Now, the one that says, I'm starving, we ain't had anything but maggoty bread for 3 sinking days, that's Andy Serkis doing the voice.
Yep.
That's not
Good for him.
Yeah,
Andy Serkis in the suit. That's just him doing the voice.
He did the ADR or something for it.
Yeah.
His voiceover. Yeah.
Yeah. And
He did a lot of. The funny thing is, Andy Serkis did a lot of the voices for a lot of the orcs and the orcs and everything, at least the ones that spoke. Because he could change the pitch and inflection of his voice very easily.
he was that orc. He was Gothmog. And he was the Witch King. So essentially, it's yeah. So we then see the orcs and Uruk-hai arguing with each other about the hobbits, and it's like our master wants it for, or they have something, an elvish weapon, and our master wants it for the war. Well, yeah, you guys got the wrong hobbits. But I love that one. I love that one fucking orc that just couldn't help it. He's like, just a mouthful, a bit off the flank, and you see that other one coming up, like, yep, you're dead. And it's like, looks like he's
back on the menu, boys.
Yep, that's what she
the
said.
Memes, there you go. Well placed.
Oh yeah, sure.
The memes from these movies, perfect.
Yes.
Or you were doing it way too much. I said we will do it intermittently.
I know. It's okay.
But anyway,
okay.
So then we see that the Urks are slaughtered during the night, and that's when Vigo and the Fellowship catch up to him. Or, well, rather, they enter Rohan, and we see the riders of Rohan. They talk with Éomer. Éomer tells them their fate. I mean, we can't cover everything, folks, so I am going to speed through a couple of things. But when they get to,
a lot of those Rohirrim are women. With
yes, it is. That is very true. Bearded women. The carnivals would be proud. But anyway. Yeah. So then we get to the pile of burned carcasses, and when he finds one of the belts, and Vigo kicks the helmet, and he screams out.
He broke
his toe. Yeah, he broke his toe, and that was that it was just so emotional that Peter Jackson's like, yeah, we're gonna use that shot.
That. Yeah,
Vigo, folks. Vigo suffered the most in this movie. He broke his toe,
his tooth.
He almost died.
Yeah, in the first one.
In this movie, he almost died.
He almost died in the first one because when he's fighting the Uruk-hai and he throws the blade at him.
That was the real blade.
He only used his prop sword. He used his prop sword to like hit it away so he didn't get stabbed in the face.
Yep.
Yeah, the master.
And
the master sword.
Yeah. So
hero sword, as they call it.
Yeah. So we then see him basically do his tracking skills very well. And he's like a hobbit lay here and the other, and they track him into Fangorn. Well, then we see what happened I love how they cut back and forth for the scene, because originally you see Merry screaming wearing a horse about to land on him. But then you see that he made it out and they get into Fangorn. Now that one orc, man, oh my God.
Didn't that orc take a spear to the back or something?
Yeah, I was like,
pretty much,
shoulder or something. Yeah.
No, he took it to the back.
He took it back.
And then it was it's the same orc, but with a different voice. I mean, this one, or the one that took the spear in the back, is like, go on, squeal. And this one is like, I'm going to rip out your filthy little innards. And I'm thinking to myself, who does he look like? Because I swear he looks like somebody. Ben Stiller, I think. Yeah. that orc looked like Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller.
That fucking orc looked like Ben Stiller, man. And
Just
when
the face.
Mary kicks him, Mary
Ooh.
really kicked him.
Yep.
Dominic actually really kicked him. And the dude played into it like, oh, you're going to fucking die now. Scared the shit out of him.
Damn.
So it's like,
Acting is reacting.
yeah. It's like, oh, no.
Damn.
Our trolls...
Between
Niazok, word that better, please. Our trolls are the corrupt no, I have no. Please word that better.
No, ants are pretty much like
our
trees.
trolls,
They're tree
corrupted
herders.
ants.
They are
No.
living trees, essentially.
In the forest, as they call
Yes.
it.
Yes. And I love how I love how John Rhys Davis does the voice of Treebeard, where he's breathing backwards. He's inhale speaking. He's like, and the way that he's very raspy and with it, I mean, that was such a great idea from John Rhys Davies, and it really added the gravitas to the voice of Treebeard because, well, while Gimli's helping the Fellowship run around, he's also helping the hobbits get further ahead. It's like, God damn it, where are your loyalties lie, you dumbass? It's like, I love that whole thing. It's like, we're not orcs, we're hobbits, halflings. And you see you see Pippin be like, yeah. It's like, but he's
The
like, all
tree's
right, maybe
talking.
you are.
It's talking.
Yeah. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. The White Wizard will know.
Tree.
Now
I
we see
am an ant.
that the White Wizard, and it's like,
Yeah.
The hell?
That was a like butt clench moment because you're like, oh my gosh.
oh shit,
what?
Saruman's there.
Oh my god. Because we don't know that Gandalf
Because-
is back. And
You
there
also
was
don't see the staff.
his face. Yeah.
That's true.
No, you don't
the
see his
staff.
face. You also don't see his staff because the staff would have been a giveaway.
Right, exactly.
Or just, like,
And-
the back of the head that's as
And even when they
There's
introduce him
probably-
later,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
they like interpose his voice with like they interpose the
Christopher
voices.
Lee's, yep.
Yeah. And I was like, man, like
I always love
the
that.
more I watch this, the more I get excited about how just as filmmaking, they brought these characters to life. They kept the mystery for certain things. Like the reason why the fans aren't upset about the changes made in the movies is because he just stayed, Peter Jackson just made sure that he stayed to the heart of the story. And I mean, there's that famous quote of he's like, we don't want to tell our story, we just wanted to tell the story and of what Tolkien wanted. And so all of these little changes and quirks and stuff to make it formatted for a movie, just like as a cinephile, A plus. And also just as like a normal moviegoer, it was just like, this is enjoyable. This is a good film. And they did a good job. Like, even if you didn't read the books, you could still enjoy the films and get the heart of the message that was being put across. And if you did read the books, you get to see your favorite characters come to life. Like when I reread Lord of the Rings, I see Aragorn as as Vigo. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Clarify, because I
Chris
remember
released-
that Treebeard said that trolls are made in mockery of Ents. Interesting.
Well, and even Christopher Lee said in an interview for everything, it's in one of the
since
supplemental
it's been a while
discs.
since it's been
One
read.
second. Hold on. Skyhound, let Ambassador finish.
Sorry. Christopher Lee said in an interview, it's in one of the supplementary, one of the special feature discs. He's like, Tolkien deliberately did not describe these characters. So now when you read these books, when you see Aragorn, you see Viggo Mortensen. When you see Saruman, you see me, Christopher Lee. When you see Gandalf, you see Ian McKellen. When you see the Hobbits, you see the actors who played the Hobbits.
Small. Yes, for the most part, in Lord of the Rings. When it came to the descriptions of characters in Silmarillion, he did describe them. Because there is the character of what's her name that they put in Rings of Power as a black woman, when she was actually described as paler than silver or pearls.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I know.
I can't remember her name, though, to save my life.
I can't either. It's
But what
that's
were you
because
going to
I
say,
chose us.
Skyhound? What were you going to say?
Well, I mean, when I was reading what Neozoic mentioned, again, and since most of us, I don't know, like how often some of us read these books, but then again, since you can't actually go through it in one setting, and then as you're reading it, you're just trying to I guess I could say, piece together what is being said. I do want to point out that considering that when we get to the final book, there were certain elements from book 2 that was put into book 3. So I guess one example I can give is right when Theoden and the others find Merry, Pippin, and Treebeard over at Isengard, and giving this kind of telling them off. That was basically from book 2.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a ton of stuff that was in like movie 3 that was in book 2, and like there was a weird overlap. So yeah, I noticed that as well when I read the books. It was like, wait, what are they gonna put in the 3rd movie if they've already like covered it?
Because another thing, when they go to Minas Morgul, when Sam, Frodo, and Gollum are arriving there, technically the book 2 ends with Sam or Frodo being taken by the orcs after Shelob was maimed by Sam.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there was a lot of time inconsistency in the books.
I think maybe Peter Jackson wanted to give, well, at least in the extended editions, he gave a lot of time to build up Aragorn as the king. You know what I mean? And he set up that a lot.
But he also wanted to make sure that people were aware of how the time was how the time passed in the movies, or from the books in the movies.
Right.
So we then are in the marshes, and they're going through. You see the death marshes, and Sam and Frodo.
Follow the lights.
Yes, and Gollum ends up saving Frodo after he falls in. But then the night is where this is the first time Gollum hears his name, Smeagol, in 500 years. In 500 years, he has not heard that name because he had forgotten his own name. And they were planning on using or doing a flashback with Deagle at the time, but they chose against it, and they ended up putting it as the beginning of Return of the King. But that's when we get interrupted with one of the wraiths flying on the Fell Beast, and I like how, or I don't know if they did it in the book. I can't remember the book very much, folks. But Frodo, whenever the Nazgul are around, he is affected by them because of the Morgul staff or the Morgul blade wound.
Morgul blade, yeah.
And when they call for him and the ring, or when they are calling for the ring and searching it out, he has a more desired effect on him to put the ring on. So when he is reaching in and Sam pulls his hand out, it's like, oh my God. Or it's like, or don't do that. Or
right, because at this point in the films, we don't have Elijah Wood playing Frodo as like completely entranced with it. Like it hasn't really, like, he's obsessed with it, but he's like more focused on his mission. And then like as we progress through the story, we get more and more where he's like looking at the ring. You know what I mean? So,
well, there was in this scene actually before it happened. He was,
but it's few and far between, is what I'm saying. Yeah. Like it's not as like you see the progression of Frodo's downfall into the. It's not really a downfall, but you know what I'm saying. Where just more and more
his sanity starts going.
Right, exactly. He goes from regular Hobbit to like obsessed.
Yeah. So now we're back in Fangorn, and we realize that the trees are speaking to each other. Now, early in that scene, when they're in Fangorn, if you look at the brooches, the elven brooches on their necks, or around their necks that are holding their cloaks, Legolas's brooch points to his left, where when he when he says that Aragorn something's out there, it's then pointing to the right, and it's like, oh fucks, get it right. But
editing mess up, wardrobe mistake. Yeah,
just trying to dress them up. Yeah, just something as simple as.
Yeah.
Well, can we
so
just
then we
say
get
how? Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the set for Fangorn itself, one of the most ominous, creepy, and just coolest sets I've seen. I mean, they built an actual woods.
Oh.
Yep.
So you can't call them creepy. Apologize to those trees.
Well, the forest itself. Shut up. No, I am not going to apologize to the trees. That forest is creepy. It's creepy looking.
Those trees would kill you. And those trees would kill you.
You're in the headspace of Gimli. Because Gimli thought the same thing, and then he made the bet with, or not the bet, he made the agreement with Legolas. Like, once everything's done, we will travel together, and he'll go see Fangorn. And I think, sorry to get off track, but it's in the appendices how he comes to appreciate the beauty of it. But, I mean, of course, Legolas would like Fangorn because he's a
wood elf. Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but I'm just saying it was designed to look creepy, and it achieved that aspect.
Yes,
it's also
it very
a cool
much did.
Set just in general.
Yeah. So then we see just how powerful our revived warrior is, Mithrandir. Gandalf comes in. I love this. It's like, we must be quick. Well, pull it, shoot, smack, throws the earth, hatchet, crack, sword, burn. I just love it.
He's so like overpowered now, because you didn't really get to see, other than in The Hobbit, if you read The Hobbit, he has like those fireballs that he throws at the wolves and stuff, but
well, those were pine cones.
Right, but he uses his fire of
allowed them to use it against those.
Correct, right. So we don't really get to see him in a combat situation really until he's like, oh, yep, your arrow's not going to do anything, and I'm going to make your sword too heavy or too whatever. And it's just you're like, oh, you can't come after him with like,
physical
just
means.
Human weaponry. Yeah, right.
Now, what a lot of people don't realize is Gandalf, yes, a lot of people say, oh, he's like super powered. Yes and no. He is as powerful as he
Maiar.
He is a Maiar. He is as powerful as he has always been. However, he is allowed further license to use his power.
Correct.
When
because
he
if
was
he
Gandalf
came with
the Grey, when he was Gandalf the Grey, he was under strict orders by Iluvatar, sent them directly to Middle Earth. Folks.
They're like the angels of Middle Earth. Yeah.
Essentially, yes. And he says, you are not to use your power in its fullest capacity until you absolutely need to. Well,
I like to think of it like military ranking, like he just gets promoted to general.
Of a sense. Yes. Now, here's the thing. This is from power scaling in was it the OneRing.net, or not .net, but .com, the channel on YouTube. The good group that does the One Ring stuff, folks, not the posers. But essentially, Gandalf is a match for Sauron without the ring. He is matched with Sauron. Because they are both Maiars.
Correct.
But
they are both.
He is the equal to Sauron without the ring.
Right.
That is Gandalf at his most powerful. Now, another thing that they did with him, or as he came back in this time, or at the turn of the tide, as he says, he's also much more sure of himself. He isn't bogged down by the worries that he had as Gandalf the Grey. So meaning he doesn't, or it's like if Frodo dies, he dies, unfortunate. Or if Frodo dies, well, unfortunate, he dies. He wouldn't care as much as he would have as Gandalf the Grey. He is much more, his purpose is more clear. And he is, or essentially, Iluvatar is like, you're going back, but you are too emotional, essentially. I am going to take some of your emotions away, some, not all, so that you may continue your task until it is complete.
He basically got the job that Saruman was supposed to do. Like, Saruman came to Earth and was like, you know what? You can't beat him, join him. And then Iluvatar was like, look, I still needed this specific task, to help the free men or the free peoples of Middle-earth to be free. Because this isn't even, like, the biggest bad that Middle-earth has ever seen. Like, Sauron is like a puppy in compared to Melkor. You know what I mean? So, like, he doesn't have to, like, Iluvatar doesn't have to send the
Valar.
Right, right. So, like, this isn't even, like, if you read the Silmarillion, this is like child's play in comparison to what has been going on in the past ages.
Melkor, which was his full angelic name, he took the name Morgoth, or he was given the name Morgoth after he completed his fall. Melkor is actually Lucifer, or is essentially equated to Lucifer.
Right.
He is the one that stood against his father.
Yeah.
And
like if you read the Silmarillion, you're like, this is like the creation story.
Yes, this is it's very much the Bible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Bible
more
of Middle-earth as it's been described. Yes.
Yep. And so Melkor, yes, he is indeed much stronger than Sauron. I mean, if they were going up against Melkor or Morgoth, as most people know him, they would have lost.
No, at that point, Iluvatar would have sent the Valinor. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes, or the Valar, rather.
Yeah. Or the Valar, sorry. Valinor is the place. Sorry.
Yes, it is the Eternal Land. But anyway, this is a line from, or as Christian here says, I am Saruman, or rather Saruman as he should have been. That is straight from the book, by the way. Too.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
So yes, to answer Neozoic, also as Gandalf the Grey and Gandalf the White are two different characters despite being the same person. Yes and no. Again, they are indeed the same person. However, his personality is lessened as Gandalf the White. He is giving, or he is given much more clearer, or a clearer head, essentially.
He had like the not the humanity, because he's not human, but like those human like qualities that made him care about. I mean, same thing when we run into Radagast and he just like cares about woodland creatures. You know what I mean? Like he cares about these things that are important, but in the grand scheme of things aren't as important as, all of Middle Earth getting dominated by this evil dude,
Yeah. And so that's why Gandalf was sent back. He's like, I've been sent back until my task is done. Meaning, if we win, I can't stay. I have to leave.
Right.
Now, yes, we did skip over the continued fight between the Balrog. I mean, as much as I would like to get into it, we can't. I'm sorry, Ambassador. I know you wanted to go through those lines. Essentially after he died, but we have to keep going. They have to go to Edoras, and we are then brought.
I do want to make one comment real quick.
All right.
When they're leaving Fangorn, and they're heading to they're about to leave for Edoras. Gimli makes a comment. This new Gandalf is as grumpy as the old one, and one other thing I want to comment on very, very briefly. And this is one of the things that made me develop my appreciation for horses and for all things equestrian, it was because of Shadowfax.
Mhm.
That is got
I was
to be
actually
one of the
getting
most.
that.
Sorry. Okay.
But go ahead.
I just want to
No,
say
no,
this.
go ahead.
My mother is a huge fan of horses, and I never really understood until I watched these movies. But once I watched these movies, I said to her, I was like, "Mom, I get it now. I get it how
Yep.
beautiful and majestic and powerful and graceful they be, because just all the horses, but Shadowfax especially, that's one badass horse and one beautiful horse."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And
go
I
ahead.
will
Now-
say though, my favorite horse is Aragorn's horse, and I
Brago.
think Vigo ends up
Brago, yeah.
Brago.
yeah. Thank you.
There's a
Thank you. I
scene-
forgot his name.
there's a
But
scene that's in there that's not in the
I think
theatrical.
Vigo ended up adopting him, or it might have been the horse
He
from
bought him.
Hidalgo.
Bought him.
He bought him.
He bought him.
He
Okay.
bought him outright. He bought him, and
Yeah.
here's the cool thing too: Viggo Mortensen actually ended up buying the horse that Arwen rode, or rather, the stunt woman that rode in place of Liv Tyler, because Liv Tyler couldn't do all that horse work or anything.
Yeah.
He ended up buying the horse that was anything for the stunt actress for Arwen, which I was like,
Oh, you're-
So I think
you're referring to
Vigo
Aslan.
had
damn,
the
how
same
is there anything else
realization.
that you can do that will make me?
Guys,
Yeah,
we are all talking over each other. Skyhound wanted to
Sorry.
say something.
go ahead, Sky. I'm
One of
sorry.
the things I remembered though is that, if I'm not mistaken, Legolas referred to the horse as one of the Miras,
Yes,
which I'm not
Mhm.
used.
which is exactly what Shadowfax is. And also, if you notice in the scene, when he introduces him, he is the Lord of all horses. Gimli shows reverence. He actually bows to the horse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because that is something that they should do, because this is not just any horse. This
Right.
is the horse of
Like
horses.
the
this
king
is
of the horses. Yeah.
this is the Lord of all horses. You show reverence, because even those creatures, as the eagles themselves are higher beings, Shadowfax himself is a higher being. He is not just a regular horse.
Right. Like the eagles aren't regular eagles. They're like higher beings. Yeah.
Yes. They fought with Ariandel against Ancalagon, the Black.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, those eagles they are of that line, and they are very proud. Where in the book, where the Witch King evokes terror, Shadowfax is actually immune to that terror. He does
one
not
thing,
react in the books.
Except in Return of the King, he does, and I was like, "Wait a minute, that's not right."
In the
I
movie,
know
yes.
yeah, in the movie he does. I know where I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but still, that was a little nitpick. I'm like, "Wait a minute, no, he stood strong and he didn't even flinch when that sucker showed up." But
Yeah.
we'll get to that when we get to that. Sorry.
Yeah. So they they are making towards Edoras, but they stop, and we learn that Sauron is indeed, he is desperate. He is lashing out because he has heard the rumor that the heir of Numenor is still alive, and he fears this because he knows that Aragorn in the movies, it is very different than the books, folks.
Yeah.
Aragorn in
he
the
has
books,
the sword the whole time.
Aragorn in the books is not afraid of his destiny. He is not
Correct.
afraid of the role he has. In the movies, he is standoffish. He never wanted, or I don't want that power. I've never wanted it. Bullshit. He has accepted who he was.
Correct.
So yes, when in the movies they change it because they wanted some character growth with Aragorn instead of him being, yes, I am this king, and yes, I will I will return to Gondor. And it's like there's no growth there for Aragorn in the medium of movies.
Correct.
So they did change that because they realized that was not something they could, or that would transfer well.
Which is weird because if you guys watch Game of Thrones, they basically copy and pasted Aragorn onto Jon Snow. He's the exact same character.
And that's why I don't like George R.R. Martin. George R.R. Martin took heavily from Tolkien,
War of the Roses and Tolkien. Yeah.
He also insults Tolkien He's like, Tolkien should have put sex scenes in his book. Tolkien was a fucking Catholic.
Yeah.
You dumb shit.
Also,
George R. R. Martin, just a
George
fat
R. R.
ass.
Martin doesn't have. Well, he
A
doesn't
beard.
have. He doesn't have any room to say anything because the Lord of the Rings is the daddy of all of the fantasy, genre.
Going forward,
Like
yeah.
if he totally reinvented, reimagined, and just like reimplanted this like love for fantasy, and he's like, this is how it's done, people, and everybody to this day still copies the like what was set up by Tolkien in his world building. Nobody's better at world building. George Martin didn't write his own languages or cultures. Tolkien did. Like, Game of Thrones wouldn't exist if Tolkien didn't write The Lord of the Rings. It is the daddy of all of those franchises. Like, even D&D campaigns are basically based off of the Fellowship of the Ring. Like, come on.
So then we are seeing that
Pretty much.
we're skipping over, or as much as I'd like to do Treebeard and the Hobbits and their lovely little growth spurts, we're skipping that out. The Black Gate of Mordor. The reason why I want to cover this is because of some of the stuff that happened behind the scenes, where they are seeing the Easterlings arrive and going into the gates of Mordor. Well, when Sam falls down and they use the cloak, which looks like a rock, which is, may these cloaks shield you from unfriendly eyes. But when they're like, I don't ask you to come with me, Sam, and they're getting ready to go, there was a take where Andy accidentally pulled off Sam's wig, and it was quite painful, and he just got up and just walked off. He's like, without a word. Sean Astin was pissed. I mean, there was just, it's like, I need to get out of here. I need to.
Well, he got a freaking like glass through his foot in the first movie,
Yeah.
and then that, like,
These movies, also, folks, these movies were all shot at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So they could, while they did that scene where he got the foot through his foot glass and he was out for a few weeks while he healed. Well, then they bring him back and he's getting his fucking wig ripped off by accident, mind you. And he just walked off and he's like, I don't know. I had to get out of there because it was just frustrated or something. He can't remember clearly what he was feeling at that moment. But it's in the appendices where they show the take, and you just see him get up and just walk off. And it's like,
it's better than shouting and yelling at everybody. I mean,
oh yeah, I can feel waves of anger.
Like, props to him for handling it. Like, sometimes you just need to walk away. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta go take a moment.
He is the son of John Astin, a great actor in his own right. Played Gomez Adams and a bunch of other stuff, which I don't have time to list here.
Yeah.
So he knows how to just hold in his temper and then let it go later.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, coming to Edoras, Theodred has died, and there was a line that Grima said to Eowyn, where it's, you are alone, and who knows what secrets you've spoken to the Watchers of the Night. Or yes, those lines were actually Gandalf's in the book. He says that to Eowyn, but it was better to put it into Grima because he is literally trying to seduce her. And for a moment, she actually does consider to give in, except she remembers who this guy is, and he's a fucking douchebag.
Right. And that's why these changes don't bother me in these movies. Is like, they did it for the sake of like filmmaking, and the changes that they made didn't take away from the story. They added to the characters. Like, I like Aragorn's character arc in the movies. And I still love the books. Like, I'm an OG book fan. So, but I'm not upset about any of these changes that were made by Peter Jackson.
Yeah. And so then we also have her looking and seeing them come up. Now, that flag that ripped off, that was not CGI. That was a real flag that got. or intentional. You're
That
right.
actually happened. Yeah.
Yep. Because on that hill in Auckland, where Edoras was mostly filmed, or not Auckland, but further out, that hill was extremely windy.
Yeah.
And they had such a hard
That whole
time.
valley was extremely windy.
Yes. And so they bring it up, and I love that line from Gimli. It's like, you find more cheer in a graveyard. But then they get up to the door, and it's like, you got to let go of all your weapons. Yep. And fucking Vigo is just, oh, yeah, this
Like,
one too.
jeez.
Oh, right. You're going to need these. Uh-huh. And also, don't forget this. Yeah. Oh, by the way,
packing.
I packed all these too. I mean, fucking Vigo has blades coming out of his ass, man. And everybody
Wouldn't surprise
else.
me if he did have one up his ass.
I mean,
Just built first.
Gimli has his 2 axes, 2 throwing axes. One is dead or is destroyed because of going up against Gandalf. But he has his throwing axe, and he has 2 of his axes. And Legolas, quivers, bow, and his 2 daggers. And that's it. And he's like, your staff. You wouldn't make an old man part with his walk stick, would you? Now, this is the most inconsistent walk-in ever, where shot from the back, he has his staff up. When shot from the forward, he has his
forward,
down.
yeah.
It's pointed forward to minimize the view of it. And we then see him brandish it against Wormtongue, and you hear the whoosh against, or the woof of the staff. And that's when he goes up and he sees that Theoden is reacting to this. And when he tries initially to release him, it's like, yeah, no power here, bub. Now, I love how they put
Gandalf the Grey.
Yeah. Now, I love how he has Christopher Lee speaking out of Theoden's mouth. If I go, Theoden dies, and he's like, Rowan's mine. He's like, and I love it.
This is like an exorcism in this world.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Pretty much.
And I love how he actually, when he forces Saruman out, Saruman is blasted backward. And then when he turns over, you see he's bleeding. And it's like, what the fuck just happened?
He's bleeding out of both of his eyes, and he's got a black mark or a black eye on one of his eyes.
Yeah, he's like, what the fuck just happened? Because he doesn't understand that Gandalf, he doesn't understand that Gandalf somehow forced him out. He had never been as strong as Saruman. Saruman was the head of the order. Therefore, the strongest of the history.
Not no more.
Except
not
he
anymore.
never was. That's what people don't realize. He never was the strongest. He was placed as the head of the order by Iluvatar. He didn't mean he was the strongest of them.
But he just got demoted by
Radagast.
Iluvatar, who's like the god of the world, basically.
Yes.
Like, basically, God was like, "Oh, you're not doing your job. I'm gonna send this other person to do your job now."
When he was diminished, when Saruman, because a lot of people don't realize this, Saruman didn't die, folks. In the movies, he dies, but in the books, he is diminished, and when he is brought low, Radagast is greater than him. That's saying something.
And they also took out the part where like he tries to like go and fuck up Hobbiton and shit. Like, you know.
We'll talk about that in Return of the King.
And sorry.
In the Scouring of the Shire. But further on, we then see Theoden reconstituting, going from possessed state to his normal state. That is so freaking seamless. You barely notice, or you don't notice it unless you are going scene or frame by frame, and it is so great.
So
I'm just impressed.
And one of the things that I do. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Orange.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
You're good. Or this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. the thing that's cool about this is they couldn't do the normal prosthetic makeup with the actor who played Theoden. I can't remember
Bernard
his name,
Hill.
and I kicking myself. Thought it was the newest first name was Bernard. They
Bernard Hill.
used the old time, Bernard Hill. They didn't use the old. They used the old timey stipple makeup, and then CGI'd it off in phases or anything to age him from the decrepit version to his more energetic and not possessed state. So that's what I really loved. And I think the fact that they use old timey techniques in a modern movie.
Oh yeah, this is a good question from Neozoic. Would Saruman be the equivalent of Judas? Yes and no. Yes in the betrayal. No in that Gandalf is not Christ.
Yeah,
Christ-like
like
character.
there's no.
I mean, yes, he revives, but he's not Christ.
He's not. Yeah, there's not really a Christ-like character. I would say Aragorn is more like David in the Bible than Christ.
Yeah,
you know, I don't really think that
I would
there is
say he's almost like I would say Saruman is almost like a mirror version of Sauron, essentially, because he betrays his task, he betrays what he's supposed to be, except he doesn't. Sauron takes the place of Morgoth, whereas Sauron pledged himself to Morgoth, and in this case, Saruman pledges himself to Sauron. So Saruman's almost like you're seeing parallels between what happens, except in this case, you've got to Maiar, one who is seemingly elevated in terms of Sauron being the Lord, whereas Morgoth was a Valar, essentially a god, and he corrupted the angels, like we discussed earlier with the whole equivalency or parallel between Morgoth and Satan.
Yeah,
there are parallels, but not every
Saruman
character is a parallel.
Saruman would not be the equivalent.
Because there is no, there is no.
There are points.
There are parallels. However, not everything that is done is a parallel, because I do not think that there is a biblical parallel to Aule, who created the dwarves, and was said, "I appreciate your zeal, but that is not, or that was never intended."
Yeah, because Tolkien's whole intention behind like the Lord of the Rings and then the Silmarillion and just like in general, like the history of Middle Earth and the world building, he wanted to create like this kind of fantasy for England, you know, and for the UK. He wanted them to have their own like folklore. And so this was his imagining of that. And yeah, he took a lot of things in his world building from like his Catholicism and the Bible, but it like you can't point out Gimli's like John the Baptist, like you can't, you know what I mean, like we can't do that with every character because that's not what his intention was when he built these characters in the world.
Yeah,
it's like what Orange had mentioned though, when we were doing the previous stream, you know, Tolkien really hated allegory as
yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's parallels, but they're not meant to be drawn as, or they're not meant to be interpreted as parallels.
Correct. Right.
So moving on, at this point, he then tells him, "Dark have been my dreams of late," and he's like, "Your hands would remember their strength better, perhaps if they grasped your sword." That is a manipulation on Gandalf's behalf. Gandalf is a manipulator as the White.
Correct.
He is trying to, or he realizes his purpose is as guide, yes, but he is also meant to be to push people in the right direction. So when he is telling him, "Grab your sword," he is essentially telling him, "You now need to go Wormtongue." No, he's not telling him you need to go to work. He's telling him,
"No, to war. Like later on, you're going to go to war." Yes, like it's a foreshadowing for that. Yeah.
Because he gives him by taking the sword, he's then looks towards Wormtongue and it's like, "Oh yeah, now I'm gonna. Okay, you're gonna die now, dude. From from the bullshit that you fucking caused." And then, Aragorn spares him. Not the best idea, but it pays off
Yes
later.
and no. Yes.
Everything worked out fine, so like I'm not worried about it. Also, it shows the humanity of Aragorn in this moment. So I don't know. I didn't have a problem.
Not to mention the spit that he was going to spit in his hand. It
Right.
right angled as soon as it spit because of the wind.
it.
So he didn't get it in his hand. It just went and
Just
just
went a different direction.
It's
yeah.
but good job, good piece of acting by Vigo and everything to pretend like, oh, dude, what the
Mhm.
hell? I'd saved
Yep.
your ass and you spit on my hand, you asshole.
Yeah. Well, that's Worm telling. So he flees from Edoras straight to Isengard, and the two kids who were leaving from the outer marshes of Edoras or Rohan had arrived after the funeral of Theodred. And you do get that great line, or as Kate mentioned earlier, no parent should have to bury their own child. It is truly a great freaking.
It's unnatural.
It is.
It's sad. It's
Yes.
It's very
It's a great
poignant
line, and
too.
it's greatly delivered too.
And
And it also
Well,
and go ahead.
there's no masculinity in my mind taken away from him for weeping over the grave of his son.
No,
no.
because this essentially the death of his son has turned him into a nihilist. At this point, he's waiting, or he wants death, but he accepts that he has his duty first. He is willing to accept his death.
It's basically like the end of his line. Like
yes,
his nephew is still in exile. His son's dead. It's like,
and Eowyn is there, but
it doesn't go
angry.
through the male line, I guess. Anyway, it works out in the end, but
Theoden actually broke the or not really broke the tradition, because there were regents, there was queen regencies and whatnot, and there were also those who would succeed even though they were female, except that some of them were usurped. Eowyn is the first in a long time to be a direct successor as a female. But anyway, getting on with it, he is telling him that you must fight, and he's like, you have 2,000 good soldiers riding north, and Eomer is loyal to you, and he will return. He's like, well, I will not risk, or I know what you want from me, but I won't risk open war. Open war is upon you, whether you would risk it or not. And I love how this is something that Theoden does well. Last I checked, Theoden, not Aragorn, was king of Rohan. Basically, he's saying, you may be the king of Gondor, but you are in my kingdom. You will address me with that respect, even though he has not earned it yet. Because he has already proven weak, and he now has to regain the trust of his people. So instead, make for Helm's Deep.
I think he was trying to play a political game, and it's too late for that. Like,
yes,
you know what I mean? Like, he was trying to play okay, well, let me show strength and protect my people and do what's best for my people, and not get any more people killed, because people have fled to Edoras because Uruk-hai are just taking over their lands and stuff, and raiding and marauding and stuff. So I think he's trying to play, like, because he's finally into his rational mind, kind of like you were saying earlier, Orange, of like Gandalf came in and is trying to like manipulate him into making the right steps forward, but he's still trying to gain, like, okay, what have I missed while I've been away? Like, he's still getting his bearings as king again.
Because we
doesn't always make the right decisions, but
sorry, Kate, didn't mean to talk over you.
No, you're good.
We don't know how long Theoden was under Saruman's control, how long he was under his sway and everything, under that spell or that possession. So it could have been weeks. It could have been months. It could potentially have been years for all we know. We don't know for sure. And the thing, correct me if I'm wrong, but after Grima flees Edoras, isn't it Aragorn that we hear say "Hail Theoden King" and everybody kneels,
Yes.
or was it one of the guards? I thought it sounded like Viggo Mortensen's voice, but I wasn't sure.
It was.
So
it was.
Here's the thing is, Theoden is obviously, this is his kingdom, this is his ground, this is his hall. He's trying to do what is right. He's got these two guys who are trying to get him to take the right steps forward. And even Gandalf is frustrated with, he's like, Helm's Deep. Why the hell are they going there? And Aragorn's even like, this is a defensible position. Edoras. Well, either way, Edoras is not a defensible position. That's the one thing that Gandalf is kind of missing here. Helm's Deep is a more defensible position. Yeah, they are kind of pinned in, but at the same time, you've got stronger walls. You've got a keep that you can flee to. You've got the caverns in back. You've got a better chance at holding off the Uruk-hai there than you do on a city that doesn't really have any great defensive positions or any defensive obstacles.
Right.
Except
they're
for
just
the
like
gate.
alone
They're
in a
sticking
valley
out in the
or
middle of
whatever.
nowhere, in the middle of a valley.
Right.
I mean,
Could be attacked on all sides,
Edoras
kind of
is-
thing.
Where they shot Edoras itself.
It was upon a
Sorry.
small, or it was upon a hill.
Yeah.
Yeah. They essentially, when they were building Edoras, I'll make this quick because I know we've got a lot to cover. They scouted for weeks trying to find the right spot in New Zealand. They just happened upon this hill in the middle of this valley. But the thing is, it was a protected site. It was a natural preserve, I think it is. And they had to get permission from the New Zealand government to go in there and everything. And they had to follow a very strict regimen of how they traveled in and out of there.
Mm-hmm.
But it was amazing what they did. Now, granted, Edoras, we don't see Edoras isn't there anymore because they had to tear everything down essentially.
Mhm.
But in terms of real world tactical planning, Edoras wouldn't have worked or anything for them to do the battle there. So anyway,
There were scenes featured of a battle at Edoras where the wargs invaded. However, it was never put into the final product. So we then see, let's see here. We then see as they are emptying, we get introduced to Brago and how Viggo calms him and then turns him free. Yes, he also he ends up buying the horse, and he bonded with that horse too, because that horse later on, you see that very much bond between Viggo and Brago. The horse's real name is not Brago though, but I forget what its name.
Yeah.
So Grima then informs Saruman of those who were with Gandalf, an elf, a dwarf, and a man, and he's like, was he from Gondor? No, he was from the north, one of the Dunedain Rangers. His cloth was poor, yet he bore a strange ring. This shows the observational skills of Grima Wormtongue, where he is indeed very observant, where he noticed that this man had the poorest clothing, yet he bore a ring that was far richer than anything he had seen. And he identifies the ring of Barahir, which was passed down of the line of kings.
And it's cool because Grima isn't like, if he weren't evil or if he weren't corrupted, he would have been a great advisor, because he would notice those things and then bring that information to the king. So like he is very valuable. His objects just misaligned, his moral compass is just super skewed.
So then he's like, so they send, let's see here. We then see Eowyn taking up her grandfather's sword and doing a nice swoosh or flourish, and we see a little bit between Vigo and Miranda, which was very nice. It shows that she has her own fears, where she fears being useless, essentially. She fears that she will not be able to help. She wants to fight. And as she said, women of this country learned long ago, those without swords can still die by them. So she wants to basically do her part. However, unbeknownst to her, because I do believe it was still planned after the death of Theodred, that he actually was turning to her to rule. He was grooming her to rule, and so he wanted her to survive. However, a strong leader knows all fields, which means battle, politics, diplomacy. She wants to fight. However, she doesn't know the politics yet. Meaning, she's good at diplomacy, she's good at fighting, she's not good at politics. She needs to understand the dance of politics, in which there's time to fight, there's a time to do other things. So then moving on.
He actually
go ahead.
Theoden pretty much pointed out later when we get to the fight with the wargs, and she keeps, trying to say like she wants to help, and Theoden's like, no, it's like, you must lead the people to Helm's Deep. You must do this for me. He's pretty much outlining, I guess you could say, how politics is done.
Yes, there's a time to fight and there's a time to flee. You are basically the only, or you are to be a leader if I fall in this battle. So it's
and there was nobody else. Like, who else would have been good to lead the families that couldn't fight? Like, there was
she's noble blood. Nobody else there was.
Right. Like, they'll respect her leadership, and everything, but also, like, it's a good. She's not just I'm a lady who can fight, blah blah blah. Like, this isn't like a feminism flag she's trying to wave. She's just like, I know that I can be of help and of service in this area, but right now my role requires me to do this other thing that she doesn't want to do. And that like line, what do you fear, my lady? A cage. And then we see her going into like the catacombs and the caves and stuff, and she's basically sort of in a cage, but as a leader and as somebody who needs to reassure everybody that, hey, like, if all of these guys die out here, she's in charge, Yeah.
So then we see the information of Grima, and he's like, they'll have women and children, he'll not stay at Edoras. It's vulnerable. He knows this. He'll flee to Helm's Deep. So the wargs are then sent out, and we are seeing that Sam and Frodo are with Smeagol, and Smeagol's trying to catch a fish. That was a very, shall we say, cold stream. So when Andy Serkis is
the
going
behind
through
the scenes,
he's freezing his fucking ass off.
Yeah, and he's only in like a leotard too. He doesn't have like a wetsuit. Like,
poor guy.
And so
the things we do for films.
Oh yeah. Now the area that they were at is also close to a munitions range for the military. So when Sam and Frodo are arguing, there's actually munition stuff going on. You couldn't hear it because of ADR replacement and whatnot. But yeah, they had to do their best not to react to all the shells going off.
Good job, guys.
And so then we see later where Smeagol is arguing with Gollum, and that scene is just so freaking great, where he's like, you don't have any friends, nobody likes you. He's like, no. And then he reminds him, you're a murderer. Yeah. And that's when he tells him, go away. Where would you be without me? I saved us. We survived because of me. Which basically tells you it's not a Jekyll and Hyde. It is essentially a personality that has sprung from his inability to cope.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
what's
It's like
born from
DID or
psychological break.
whatever.
Yeah, that's why I had a
Dissociative,
rough time trying to
dissociative
define
disorder.
it, because I knew it wasn't Jekyll and Hyde, but I knew
Yeah.
it was something.
Jekyll and Hyde was made knowingly, where this one, or where Gollum sprang from Smeagol due to his inability to cope with the traumas that he had inflicted.
Right.
And so when he finally overcomes Gollum, you get this idea that, well, if you are ignorant to the books, you get this idea that maybe Smeagol is finally free from Gollum's influence. And so he brings up the conies, which are rabbits. And I love that he's like, or he just drops them right in the and Frodo's like, yeah, see, he's good. And it's like, yeah, eat them. And then he starts freaking sicking or making them see. He's like, rips it. It's only one way to eat a brace of conies. Now that spit, when he's like, we need some good taters and whatnot, and he's like, no, that's actually Andy Serkis's real spit. He's like, yeah, that's mine. That's my own, man. That's my spit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a fun thing before we go further, folks, I told you all about the skit between Jack Black and Sarah Michelle Gellar from last stream with the Council of Elrond.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you want to catch that, it's fucking hilarious. These are all within the movie editions of the extended editions, where this one, Gollum won best digital character for Two Towers. And Andy Serkis has the MTV award. He's like, I'm actually in the studio right now. We're finishing up Return of the King. It was a complete marriage of skills. Then you see Gollum coming up. He's like, you're a liar and a thief. It was mine. I won it. It was me. We only survived because of me. And then you see the duo between Gollum and fucking Smeagol. And he's like, and me. MTV is our friend. Our friend. You don't have any friends. Nobody likes you. No, nobody. Dobby likes me. Dobby's a fucking bag. He's like, gamer words, folks. I'm sorry. But that's what he says. And he's like, that's enough, Gollum. Piss off, Circus, you stupid, rough as fucking turd. Not fat. All right, you stupid, fat, rough as fucking turd. And he's like, no, we're not going to thank anybody. No, not you, not MTV, and not those pencil-pushing Pindex at Weta Digital. And Peter Jackson, my precious, who do you think you are, you fucking hack? Shame on you. Shame on you. Go fuck yourself. I mean, Gollum is just going off. And you see him, he's like, I'm not listening, not listening. And freaking Andy Serkis is standing there like, cut the fucking feed, man. And so it's like, I mean, he's like, we're not thanking anybody. And if you think that this shitty little tub of gold popcorn is going to make up for the suffering that we suffered, you're sadly fucking mistaken. You're all bastards. MTV sucks. We hate you all. Good night. And then he just skips off. It's so fucking hilarious. And then you see Elijah Wood in the crowd, and he's looking. He's like, "That was so fucking awesome." I mean, it is so fucking hilarious, folks. When you go, or when we end the stream, if you guys want to see this, look up Gollum MTV Award. I'm pretty sure you'll find it under that. So getting back to it, Gollum, or we then see the Wildsmen and the Haradrim. Yeah, I do believe the Haradrim being ambushed by the scouts from Osgiliath, which is led by a Faramir. Now, folks, Faramir is one of the most powerful characters of men in the books, for he is not influenced ever by the ring. In the movie, is a little different. But he is also very ruthless as well, because he wants to please his father. And he's looking for, or he takes them hostage. And, well, Gollum being Gollum, he freaking flees. And he's like, yeah, fuck this, I'm out. You're on your own.
Fun side note about Faramir, when Tolkien was writing him, he wrote in one of his letters, I don't know if it was to his wife or to his friends, maybe C.S. Lewis or something, but he says, I don't think I created Faramir, he wrote himself, but I do quite like him. Like Faramir was like a necessity for the story, and just kind of, I guess, developed as a part of, you know, him writing the story. But Faramir wasn't super planned for him to be as awesome and just and you know, just the character that he was. You know what I mean?
Which is probably why he never wrote him as an influence or being influenced by the Ring.
Right, because he just needed it's a fun duality though between Faramir and Boromir, because Boromir would be like equal as far as strength with Faramir, but because of like the doubts that he has and his fear of losing Gondor, he is influenced by the Ring, because his desire, even though it's a good one, to see Gondor restored, like the Ring was able to be like, if you use me, you can do that, you know?
Yep. Boromir is the greater fighter, where Faramir is the greater of spirit, essentially.
Yeah, he's the greater guy.
Mm-hmm. So then we are brought to a extended scene of, it's true, you don't see many dwarf women, and they're often so alike in voice and appearance that they're often mistaken for dwarf men. It's the beards. Yeah, not like that. It's yeah, and she's like, shush. He's like,
I like when he brings up they popped out of the ground, and it's like, well, they kind of did if you read the Silmarillion, because they have to be hidden under the ground.
They did. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And so he then accidentally sets his horse off because he accidentally cued the horse to run. And I love how he's always falling off horses.
Well, they're not. That race isn't meant to be. Yeah, like the race of dwarves isn't meant to be like the horse lords or whatever. Like, you know what I mean?
Ponies, not horses.
Right, exactly.
But we then see Aragorn is talking with Erin, and then we get this next scene with the soup, which was actually not made.
Scene.
Yes, it was not made by Miranda Otto. It was from the mess. It was from the caterers. They made this shit.
Oh.
And boy, was it bad.
You're kidding. The caterers made that crap?
Wow.
Yes.
Like,
wow.
They made it bad on purpose, or
I don't think it was made bad on purpose. I think it was just accidentally made shit. But I love it. He's like, she's going, really? She turns off. He's about to pour it, so she turns back around. My grandfather told me.
Yeah, and he burns his hand.
And it's like, oh, that fucking hurts. I mean, it just shows you that man controls his pain very well. You know, so we then learn the age of Aragorn, and she's like, well, you must be at least 60.
It's got that like Numenorian blood.
Do it, damn it. But he's like, yeah, you must be at least 60. And I love that. He's like, 70? You can't be 80. 87. And that's when she realizes this is no ordinary man.
Mm-hmm.
He is a descendant from Numenor. And so instead of leaving him in peace to eat, please eat. And I'll just stand here while you fucking eat that stuff that you said was good.
I can appreciate that scene.
Fucking spoonful.
Yeah, I can appreciate that scene because, like when people give me gifts and then watch me open them, I feel the same like anxiety.
Like, please?
Can you just let me? Right? Can you let me like enjoy this in my own time? Like I don't want you to watch my face to see my reaction.
Let me open my present and pick.
Well, I just don't like, you know, like people watching my reactions to see if it's the right reaction. You know, she's like, "Oh, eat. Let me watch you eat." And it's like, Joe, like, I realize you're like in love with him, but like, please.
Right. So then we get the next.
Go ahead. It goes back to the line. Sorry, it goes back to the line from the riddle of Aragorn. The old that is strong does not wither.
Yeah, and so. We then get the next scene where it gives us a reminder of between Aragorn and Arwen. And also, Daddy's kind of pissed off that Aragorn's getting sweet on her. So he's like, you know what? You're going to leave. This is actually the test of Elrond. It's like, she can leave. You're staying here. She's elf-kind. You're mortal. Get the fuck lost. And so he also basically guilts him into believing the same thing. Now, this is not in the books at all, folks, but it is a nice thing that they did. And you see her basically, she's like, it was a gift, keep it. And she's still in love with him. She's still willing to wait for him. And this is the ultimate test of Aragorn to earn the right to marry her.
Right.
You have to take up your role. You have to take up your responsibility, and you will do it. Otherwise, she'll die.
And that's why in the books, he doesn't waver, because he's like, I'm willing to go through these Herculean trials to earn her hand, you know,
Yep.
or why we see him singing in the first movie about Beren and Luthien, because that's basically like the story that he's taking. He's, you know, he's the mortal and she's immortal, and then, you know.
Yeah. So then we get to the warg attack. Now
I could make a really obscene joke here, but I won't.
Don't.
Yeah. So then we get the warg attack, and
I could, but I won't.
Orlando Bloom in this area here, he broke a rib. So yeah, he fell off a horse and broke a rib. And it's so when they do him sliding up onto the horse, that's completely digital. And so
yeah,
I love
that's the only one that looks like kind of like
yeah. And so then we see the clashing of the horses and the wargs. Now these wargs are supposed to be the wolves of Isengard. They look more like hyenas to me, but
I was going to say the exact same thing.
And I love how frickin' he's like, get me up there, I'm a rider. Go ahead, the crazy thing. Go ahead.
The crazy thing is that whole scene was not even in the books as I understand it.
Nope.
And they pieced that whole scene together. I think it was like a second unit shoot. It wasn't the main unit. I even think Andy Serkis might have directed it, maybe.
No, there is a scene that he did direct, but he did, and we'll get to that in the next movie. But
right.
I love how they brought on the whole rivalry between elf and dwarf, where he's like, bring your pretty face to my axe. And, well, Legolas, being the dick that he is, steals the fucking kill. And he's like, that one counts as mine. And so then he puts a freaking...
Kill blocker?
Yeah. And so then he puts an axe in the face of a warg, and he gets stuck underneath it. And he's like, stick creature. Here comes a freaking orc. Snap. Oh. And then here comes another freaking warg, and it's like, oh Jesus, not you too. And so then he gets kicked. And so when that thing lands on him, and he's like, oh, that's real, because they kept on piling weight on John Rhys Davies. Now, also, in that scene after that was all said and filmed, John Rhys Davies decided to play a prank on Peter Jackson, because the tip of his middle finger was cut off at a home accident. And so they put a prosthetic tip. And so he's like, he goes to the makeup people. He's like, could you cut, or I'm going to cut this open, and could you fill this with fake blood? And so he played a prank on freaking Peter Jackson. He's like cutting it open, and he's like, Pete, I kind of had a serious accident. And so Peter Jackson's flipping out. He's like, we need to get you to the hospital like right now. And it's like, oh no, I was just kidding. So, holy shit. I mean, it was a great prank, and Peter Jackson to this day is still, or I think is still a little bit miffed from that. But yeah, I really like the Battle of Helm's Deep, because that's also where they got their Weta digital group of digital armies to work right, because the ones in the background kept on running off because they had nobody to fight. So they had to keep tweaking and tweaking and tweaking to get it right. And they did a good job with these things. So
I like the lighting, like they lit it by moonlight, or where they had that like faux light, so you
no,
could
this was
still
daylight.
they could, well,
It was
no,
broad
like the
daylight.
way that it was in broad daylight, but like how they did it, they didn't, like Game of Thrones made the mistake of blacking everything out so that you couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
This was like they did a good job of like, okay, this is a nighttime fight, blah blah blah, but like you could still see everything. There was that, suspense of
We're not at
disbelief of
Helm's
like,
Deep. That's Helm's Deep. We're at the
oh,
Warg
sorry.
Attack.
Oh, my
Make
bad.
it
I jumped forward.
Yeah.
My bad.
But
Sorry.
it's all right. So Aragorn ends up getting caught on one of the wargs, or his gauntlet gets, or his wrist gauntlet gets caught, and he ends up going over to Edge. Well, they now think he's dead. Now, when when they're filming him going down, he caught an undertow and he sank for about 2 minutes. And he was stuck at the bottom of that river for 2 minutes trying to get up. Everybody's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, we just killed Vigo. Somebody get his kid on the phone. And he popped up. It's like, hang up the phone. But yeah, he scared the shit out of everybody. And then Brago, after all the training that he did with him, was able to do that scene where he lays down next. Hey, Price is Right review. Good to see you. And that is straight from the bond between Vigo and the horse that he bought. Because Vigo would sleep with this horse, not in that way, but he would actually go into the stable and sleep next to him.
Yeah.
I mean, to show him that I'm not like one of those guys that's just going to leave you into a stable,
Right. Like he was like his bud. Like they were buds.
And so we then are seen to Helm's Deep. People are getting in there. We see its weakness, and which is also being covered by Grima. And we then see how could fire undo stone. And we see the Yahtzee hunter, because you can't say it. The Yahtzee hunter, Christopher Lee, playing a very Yahtzee-esque figure in this movie, where he addresses 10,000 Uruk-hai.
Yep.
Yahtzee.
Yeah, and it's like a new power is rising. Its might is at, or its might is will soon be in hand. But anyway, he sends it off to Rohan, and it's like, march to Helm's Deep, leave none alive. When he says leave none alive, he means leave none alive. Now, folks, there's the telepathic scene between our Galadriel and Elrond shows some Uruk-hai walking up, or the army of Uruk-hai walking, going to the Fellowship of the Ring, the first trailer. That scene is in the first trailer to Fellowship of the Ring. So, like, yeah, you definitely realize that they shot all of these together and out of sequence. But so then we see, when you see all those freaking, it's like, there is no such force. And I also love how he grabs the freaking candle, and it's like, get it back.
He's like, please get away from the gunpowder.
Like, yeah, you fucking tipped in there, dude. We're dead. So, but yeah.
What a shame.
Yeah, right. And so then we get the scene between Elrond and Arwen, and the mortality that she will have to go through. And so she relents that she'll go to the Undying Lands. We're going to skip over it, unfortunately. But we then see that Galadriel is speaking with Elrond, and it's like, do we leave them to deal with this on their own? Yeah, actually, they did, folks. In the books, they did. This was dealt, or Helm's Deep was the Battle of Thermopylae with a good ending, where 300 men and children faced an army of 10,000 and won. When
it was originally done in the Bible too with Gideon, so it's this.
Yep.
this kind of like
Yeah.
insurmountable odds things have been
because elves
It's
did
a
not show up.
right, exactly. No, elves didn't show up. But I do really appreciate that scene when he comes in and he's like, "We came to honor that allegiance." I'm like, "Yay!" You know.
Yep. And a lot of people say that there's a lack of diversity. I'm covering this, folks, because I want to, because it is important. A lot of people say that there's a lack of diversity in the Lord of the Rings. There's too many white people in it. Well, here's the thing. Haldir, the actor, is gay. Gandalf, Ian McKellen, gay.
Also,
Many
the
of the bearded women,
diversity. Yeah. Well,
some of
also
them are lesbians.
the diversity is in the
Through the
races. Like
races.
they're not all human. Like you've got
Yeah.
elves, you've got different kinds of elves, you've got dwarves, you've got hobbits, you've got all sorts of like. We see things as like skin color diversity because we live in like a Western society, but like back then, like the men of Gondor and the men of Rohan and the men of the Dunedain were considered different types of men.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
that was the diversity. And also Tolkien based it off of like folklore that was supposed to be for the UK. What did the UK look like when Tolkien was alive?
Very white.
You know what I mean?
But anyway, yeah. Take it easy, Neozog. Thank you for stopping through. And companion reminds us of, yes, Hidalgo, which was also based on a true story. Hidalgo's line still exists today, by the way, folks, for those of you who want a little bit of trivia. His line is within the wild horses of Colorado. So getting on, let's see here. Faramir's camp and interrogation of Sam and Frodo, and remembering Boromir. Great scene. And we get the flashback of Boromir and Denethor and Faramir, where they retook Osgiliath. John Noble as Denethor.
Yeah.
Great job.
Perfect casting. Perfect casting. Also,
brother, today is good.
Yeah. Also, I do want to apologize to John Noble for having to go back into as Denethor for that god-awful show, Legends of Tomorrow. I mean, he had to dress up as Denethor again, and they tried. God love this man, where he's like, he's playing John Noble as John Noble, and they're like, yeah, we got some rewrites. Yeah, you don't rewrite Tolkien, my good sir. This dude knows Tolkien's work, and he played Denethor brilliantly, because what a lot of people don't realize is Denethor was driven mad, not because of the ring, but because of the Palantir stone in the White Tower. So yeah, he's been going nuts for years because Sauron's been feeding his freaking mind with doubt and terror,
which we'll eventually address in the third.
Yes, we will address it further in the third one. So then we see them finding the third one, which was Gollum. And Gollum, I love that song, "A Rockin' Pool is Nice and Cool," and he's just smacking the fish. And the sound of the fish being smacked was actually done by Andy Serkis in the set where they were doing it. So it's like, yeah, he's smacking a dead fish against the damn thing. It's like, well, shit. Okay, yeah. And I love how he's just and he's just ripping into that fish, and it's like, Master, what are you doing here? We must go now? Okay, let's go. The fuck are these fit? Fuck. And we then see Faramir is looking away as these guys are beating on Gollum, or beating on Smeagol. And so then when he tells him that's enough, and they throw him outside, and you see Smeagol being retaken over by Gollum, where Gollum is rubbing his back, comforting him. And he's like, I told you he was tricksy. I told you he was false. And he's like, no. He looks after his no. And he's like, filthy little hobbits. They stole it from us. What did they steal? My precious. I just love that. And then he just does his scream again. And it's like, so this is the answer to all the riddles. And we get the scene that's not in the movie, where when he pushes away Faramir's sword and goes in the background, they actually did a scene where Elijah is made up to kind of resemble Gollum. Like, this is the future that he might have.
Yeah.
And Faramir was to see this, and it'd be like, what am I seeing? Essentially your future if you keep pushing it.
Mm-hmm. And I like the part where, right after Frodo's like,
go ahead,
kind of annoyed with Faramir, Sam pretty much just blatantly points out to Faramir, he's like, you want to know why Boromir died? And he just lays out the details.
Oh, yeah. And we'll get to that when they get to Osgiliath. But he tells him, he's like, it's such a burden. We need help while Osgiliath is under attack. The ring will go to Gondor. Except that here's what happened when Faramir saw the ring. I would not touch this thing if I found it by the wayside. I have
not at all affected by the
I don't
ring.
want that.
Right.
And Philippa Boyens is like, we couldn't exactly have that because you robbed the ring of all power if you have somebody willing and able and willing to deny its influence with such ease. And everybody likes to go, well, what about Sam? Fuckers, Sam wore it, yes, for an extended period of time, but he did not ever feel the call of the ring because yes, but also he wore it in to the thing in the next movie. But we'll address that when we get to it because it's too long to do now. So then we get to Aragorn arriving at Helm's Deep after he saw the Yurks, and it's like a great host. How many? 10,000 strong at least, and it's an army bred for one purpose, to destroy the world of men. Well, Mr. Nihilist, let him come. And
right,
I'm sorry.
He's not giving up.
Oh, Jesus. I just said that, let them come, and it's like I just saw Donald Trump in my head. Oh, I'm coming. And it's like, I don't know why, but I'm laughing hysterically in my head right now. But we also see the Crabine outside after we had the argument between Aragorn and Theoden, which is a nice reminder that Sauron's still watching.
Mm-hmm.
And we then get the Entmoot. And it's like, it is a gathering, and we are deciding, are we going to go to war, or what are we going to do? Well, that Entmoot, folks, we're going to cover the entirety of the Entmoot right here, because it's like they are cutting like 20 minutes ahead, 30 minutes ahead, and whatnot between. And it's like, Mary, we have just agreed. Yes, what the fuck? Oh, yeah. I have told your names to the Entmoot here, and we have just agreed that you are not orcs. Well, that's good news. Well, what about Saruman? Have you made a decision about him? Now, don't be hasty, Master Mariota. Hasty? Our friends are out there, damn it. But I love that. It's like, yes, war, it affects us all. And so he's like, okay. And so the next one is... the first one is they must have decided something by now. Decided? No, we just finished saying good morning. It's nighttime already. I mean, I love it. And then then it's the agreement that they're not orcs. And then it's like, the Ents can't hold back this. How can that be your decision, man? This isn't our war, but you are a part of this world. I love how he lays into it.
Yeah, and this goes into like what you said earlier about Gandalf manipulating people. He knew that leaving the hobbits with the Ents would get the Ents to do what he needed them
Yes.
to do.
Mhm.
So it was all his like careful planning in that regard as well. Like if and
He
it's
knew that
really
Mary
smart
would be
because
able
he
to.
right exactly. And he does it really smoothly where you like almost don't see that he's manipulating people
Yeah.
or manipulating situations or whatnot, but he
He's
groups people
Palpatine.
together. But
He's
good
Palpatine as a
Palpatine?
good guy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right. Exactly.
He's a
And
manipulator,
so,
but he's a manipulator with a good purpose.
Right. He
yes.
has a
And
good
he
goal
realized that these
and
two, he realized that these two would be able to get the Ents to do something that they haven't done in a long,
Mhm.
long time.
That's
Right.
the elder days. The
Yep.
ants are about to wake up and realize that they are strong.
Yep.
And we
Now,
find out just how damn strong those mothers are because they tear mother freaking war thing down to its last. Well, not quite.
we'll get
They
to it.
kick
Yeah.
I'll get
I
to it.
know.
We'll get to it.
Sorry.
Oracle from the Matrix
All right.
telling people exactly what they needed to hear. Yes and
So,
no. He tells them what they need to hear, or exactly what they needed to hear, but there's absolute truth behind what he tells them.
Mhm.
Where
Mhm.
sometimes the Oracle tells them, well,
A lie.
son of a bitch, actually, yeah. Actually, he does tell them exactly what they needed to hear, but it does end up turning out to be true in some ways, except for the whole "you're not the one" kind of thing. Anyway, back to Lord of the Rings. This isn't the Matrix. We'll discuss the Matrix some other time. In fact, we might actually discuss it after the Hobbit trilogy. And yes, we are doing the Hobbit after this one, folks. So we decided, we being the royal we. So let's see here. There's the Eowyn admits her love for Aragorn, and Aragorn argues with Legolas. Theoden's reflection. This is where you are, or this is your cue, Ambassador, because I did say that you could do this. Where Theoden has asked all able men and lads to be conscripted.
Yeah.
And as he is delivering this monologue, who am I gambling and whatnot, you see the kids being dragged away from their parents, armoring up, and they focus mainly on the kids.
It's a very
have a good
emotional
night,
scene.
Elena. Thank you for staying in. It is a very it's heart-wrenching. And you see these
because
kids.
we get the buildup of like, oh, this army was made to kill everyone. And so we need anyone who's able to at least hold a sword to help defend it,
Because we got 10,000 people heading our way, and it's like 300.
Right. So like if you're
10,000.
a 10-year-old little boy and you can hold a sword, congratulations, you're drafted.
Yeah. And it really,
yeah,
that
that
hurts.
scene, I was like, that was really rough to watch.
Oh, yeah.
It was.
And
But
so-
the lightheartedness afterwards, where you get Aragorn with that kid, and he says, "Give me your sword," and he's like, "This is a good sword."
Hold on, before we get there, hold on.
Okay.
I do want to talk about that. I'll let you talk about it, but I do
Okay.
want to give something in there too. But first,
Sure.
our ambassador, Theoden gives the speech. So give or take it from here, man.
Do it.
This is the full. This is the full speech. It's called the Lament of the Rohirrim. Where is the horse and the rider? Where is the horn that was blowing? Where is the helm and the hauberk and the bright hair flowing? Where is the hand on the harp string and the red fire glowing? Where is the spring and the harvest and the tall corn growing? They have passed like rain on the mountain, like a wind in the meadow. The days have gone down in the west, behind the hills, into shadow. Who shall gather the smoke of the deadwood burning? or behold the flowing years from the sea returning.
Alrighty. And so then we do get to that scene where Aragorn is holding the thing, as Kate was talking about. Folks, Haleth is the son of Hama, who died in the warg attack.
I know.
However, that kid, who a lot of people mistaked for a girl, I thought it was a fucking girl at first because the voice had not broken yet. Do you know who that is?
Negative, Ghost Rider.
His last name's Mortensen.
What?
That was his son?
That's his kid?
Aww.
I do believe Haleth was
Bobby
played
damn.
by. I do believe Haleth was played by Viggo Mortensen's son.
That's awesome.
Who
Wow.
played Haleth in Two Towers? No, it's the kid next to him.
Oh.
The kid next to Haleth, I believe, was Viggo's son.
Oh,
That's still cool
Yeah.
that they put their kids in.
those kids get to have a little cameo.
Yeah,
come
his
on.
Well, the Jacksons, but
yeah, he. Go ahead. Ambassador.
I was just going to say this. I was just going to say this was a family affair. I mean, you had Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh's kids in it. You had Viggo Mortensen's son in it. You had, heaven only knows, you had Peter Jackson in it. You had his little cameos here and there.
Yep.
He chucked a
Biting the
spear at
carrot.
Mordecai.
Yeah, the
biting
first
carrot,
one, he's
throwing
a carrot
spear,
guy.
I don't remember what.
He's also
I
in
don't
this one
remember he
too.
did Return of the King, but I know he did something. I can't remember what.
We'll get to that. We will get
We'll
to
get to
that.
that part when we do.
Yeah,
That
we'll
part,
get-
that part was actually pretty funny in the
Yep.
third one.
Yeah. And so we then see that the Uruk-hai are catching up after Viggo tells the kid there's always hope and swinging that sword like it's nobody's business. And that has also become such a fucking meme. It's where it's like, give me your sword and whatnot. And so whenever you finish or mom or your parents finished with the Christmas wrapping and you grab the tube, this is a good sword.
Mhm. Yeah.
It is such a meme.
Well, I like that too. Like we have him with getting ready for battle or whatnot, and talking in Elvish with Legolas, and he's like, and I should die as one of them, and like he's just kind of going from that scene, and then you have him saying like, this is a good sword, and like talking about there being hope. You're like, okay, so he's struggling with this inner, like, I know I'm supposed to be this king of Gondor, but I gotta help out these people of Rohan because otherwise they're gonna get wiped out in a day. Like, you know what I mean? There's just like all of this really great character building, and I can't just say that enough because it's just they do a really great job of making them feel real, like they're real people.
Yeah.
I
And
do
so
want to
we
mention real
get,
quick, though. I just want to mention real quick that when we eventually get to the start of the battle, I really, really love the banter between Legolas and Gimli in
Mhm.
this one. It's so fun. I mean, I would even probably want to even quote it, but it's just so much fun.
yeah, and I also love it. He's like, if we had more time, I'd get this adjusted. Drops a frickin' or he lets loose the chainmail.
It's
It's a little tight across the chest.
And they're
I
like,
feel like he had to put those
Mhm.
in so that everybody wouldn't get depressed while watching this like last
Yeah.
20 minutes of the movie.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
right.
Yeah, and so that's when the elves arrive, and it's not exactly what happens in the movies, folks, because
Mhm.
the elves never arrived. I believe Haldir was actually fighting in Lothlorien because the orcs were attacking there too.
They were attacking everywhere because a lot of people
Yep.
bring up like, why is Gimli the only dwarf fighting? Like, where are the dwarves? I'm like, oh, their home in the north is getting attacked. Like
The Lonely Mountain is being sacked.
right, like the whole it's not just, we just follow the story of the Fellowship basically, and then after they break up, we follow all of those characters. But like this is Sauron's like final I'm gonna take Middle Earth kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like he's been in hiding
This
and
is his-
whatnot, but
This is
This
his
is it.
last ditch effort, essentially. Because
basically,
now
yeah.
he's like, you know what? I'll let Saruman, who's planning on betraying. Sauron knows that Saruman was going to betray him, but he's like, you know what?
Yeah.
He's a useful tool right now. I'll kill him later. Right now, I want to make sure that a certain someone dies because I don't want that one alive. And he fears Aragorn. He knows that Aragorn is out there. He knows that Aragorn is is out and doing or mustering people to fight. And so we then see the arrival of the Uruk-hai. Now, folks, when all those people were lined up and started banging their spears like this, and start banging their chests and whatnot, the director, Peter Jackson, and other people were yelling shit at him like, your fucking mother is a whore and shit like that. Getting them to freaking react and whatnot. And you see this guy up there with his bow draw, and it's like, oh shit. And he looses the arrow, and it's like, I didn't expect that. And so it's like, you see the orcs are like, bitch, you just fucking shot her too. We weren't doing shit. We were just standing here. You motherfucker. I mean, they're like, what the hell's wrong with you bastards? Go! I mean, when you see that freaking orc just go, get him. It was like, oh shit.
As I always like to say, 10,000. Now it's down to 9,999.
And it's like, and the guy's like, hold. And it's like, he's like, oh shit. I mean, he realizes he fucked up. It's like, they probably stayed there for at least fucking like 20 more minutes.
There's one part though that was like pretty hilarious though, and it's when Gimli's going, what's happening out there? Shall I describe it to you? Would you like me to bring you a box?
There's a Facebook group with that name, and it's great.
What? Shall I find you a box?
Yeah, it's yeah. There's a Facebook group called "Shall I Find You a Box?" It's just Lord of the Rings memes.
And it's so then we see the rain starts, and then it's like, so it begins, which has also been meme to hell.
Yes, it has.
I mean, when fucking November 1st comes around and we see that bitch freaking thawing out of her ice castle who wants to sing that god awful song. So
the 1996 version.
Don't even.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
I'm not going to do it. I know.
If
what
you
you're
do it,
about,
we
though.
will no longer be friends, and we will banish you like they banished Morgoth out of Valinor.
But the memes from this movie, and like even the like, all right, keep your secrets. Like that one's my favorite from the first one.
And so,
right, I will.
When they start giving the volley, and he's like, give him a volley, fire, and you see that guy turn around with the one eye. That's a real one-eyed person, folks. And they had to convince him to take off his eye patch, and they actually convinced the guy to take off his eye patch. Yeah,
interesting.
So that is such a great scene. And we get the Battle of Helm's Deep, and while they're at it, the Ents are deciding not to go to war. Or no, wait, we already went over that.
Trees.
Yeah. Hold on.
Fancy
So
trees.
we then see that while he's like, is this it? Is this all you can muster, Saruman? And I'm thinking, you arrogant, fucking pompous, dumb shit.
Yep.
You realize what you just did? Because the very next scene, The very next scene, they're hauling in the fucking gunpowder, and they're like, "Yeah, get out of
It's
here!"
not gunpowder; it's dynamite.
Spoke
Essentially,
too soon.
Olympic runner.
The Olympic run was so fun. I was expecting like
Yeah.
the dun 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 dun
Yeah,
dun
right.
dun dun.
yeah, chariots of fire. Chariots of fire.
Yeah.
One thing that I will admit though is that
Chariots of
I mentioned
orcs.
it a while ago. Oh, go ahead.
No, I thought.
Yeah, no, you go ahead, Stan.
I remember though that during the whole fight at Helm's Deep, Gimli's going and was like, Legolas, 2 already. I'm on 17. He's like, I'm not gonna let no point outscore me. And then
so he gets in
years
between
later.
2 of these fucking ladders, and he gets the perfect fucking catch-up point because he catches up really freaking quick. Because it's like he kills 1 person, Legolas is killing 2 people. And it's like, yeah, fuck you. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. I mean, it's like, dude's going to be at like a fucking 100 before he even gets the battle done. But yeah.
Comes close.
there's
We
also
then
that
see-
part later on though when the whole
After. We'll get to it after. Trust me.
What I like
So-
is he proves his like in the first one, he's like, you have my axe, and like
Mhm.
he definitely shows up with his axes
Oh, yeah.
or his main battle axe, and you're like,
Mhm.
Gimli staying true to his word. Like,
Oh, yeah.
And so
We love.
We
Gimli,
then
yes,
see
do.
the-
We love Gimli. How about you?
we then see the wall get blown up. And I love the look on Theoden's face. He's like, I didn't expect that. Fuck.
Yeah,
It's, it's
Saruman
oh
discovered
shit.
dynamite. You idiot.
Yeah. Now, so everybody's fucking scared shitless now because the wall's been breached. And
Mhm.
Gimli just fucking jumps off the damn wall into the group of dwarves or
Or-
Yuriks. And it's like he gets smacked down. It's like everybody else just fire a fucking volley.
Mhm.
And so he's like, charge. Now, oh shit, I forgot to cover this. Small going back in time, folks, to the Battle of the Fields with the wargs. When Theoden says charge and you see freaking Vigo go like this, if you pay close attention, Vigo couldn't help but laugh or smile because it's like, this is so ridiculous, but I'm gonna do it anyway. it's like I'm thinking to myself, oh my god. But man, folks, again, Vigo lost or had a part of his front tooth busted off from this fight.
Mhm.
Helm's Deep, back to Helm's Deep. And I mean, he had to go to the dentist and get it super glued. Super glued. Broken toe, nearly drowned, super glued tooth. What else is this man gonna freaking do?
which
Well,
is
he's gonna
hilarious
also-
because if you see in like you know, you're saying Orlando Bloom like busted his rib because
Mhm.
like if you watch the behind the scenes stuff on their
Mhm.
days off, they were specifically told by like the producers, like, don't do anything, don't get hurt while you're, you know, on your days off. And like Orlando Bloom went like bungee jumping.
Right, I remember hearing that story.
And it was like
Like,
they got more
happened,
hurt on set doing stuff than they did, you know, on their off time. You know what I mean? So it was just funny the
Yeah.
don't get hurt, but they only got hurt at work.
Yeah. And it's like, don't hurt yourself. Okay, we won't. All right, and action.
Goes
Oh,
bungee jumping.
fuck, ah, ah.
right. Yeah.
So then they end up getting the gate crashing, and so they're like, buy us or hold them. How long do you need? As long as you can give me. Now, if you pay close attention to that, when they show or how long do you need, and as long as you can give me, and they pan back over, you see that there's a Uruk-hai already through the fucking gate. A couple of them through the gate, and it's like, how the hell did you guys get in?
Exactly.
That door didn't open.
Uh-huh.
They got phasing freaking Uriks, man. But I love that. Oh, it's okay. We can take them. It's a long way.
Toss me.
He's like, toss me.
What?
What? Just gotta toss it. Don't tell the elf. Not a word. And then you get that freaking gif where you see freaking Legolas and freaking Aragorn laughing, and then I fucking tossed him. Fucking go. I mean, it's hilarious, man. It's like, and then I fucking tossed him.
It's like he goes from "don't toss him" in the first, and then the second.
Nobody tosses dwarf. Toss me. I just love that, dude. And then
and Aragorn's such a good friend because he's like, not one word.
Yep, not a word. And then he tosses them. Now, there's this other one where they have the taller ladders coming up with the ropes.
Oh.
And where you see a bunch of them are on the ladder, and Legolas cuts the thing. You hear one, I kid you not, folks. You hear one of the fucking Uruk saying, "Oh, motherfucker!" It's you fucking hear it. If you pay close attention, it's like, "Oh, motherfucker!" It's like, oh shit. And then you hear them screeching as they all die, and it's like, oh shit, dude, that is so fucking hilarious.
If the sound guy didn't catch it, like the sound engineer just was like,
well, they were saying it in black speech, but it seriously sounds like, "Oh, motherfucker." It's great. Yeah, it's black speech sounds like real speech in this case, folks. That dude seriously said, "Motherfucker." It's just like, god damn. It is so fucking great. And so while this is going on, Osgiliath is burning, and Faramir's telling them to bring the hobbits to his father, and that's when Sam goes off. He's like, "You want to know what happened to Boromir? All of Faramir's troops are stop and turn and are keyed into this because Boromir, their hero. You know why? You want to know why your brother died? You tried to take the ring from Frodo. After swearing an oath to protect him, he tried to kill him. The ring drove your brother mad." Imagine being those soldiers and being Faramir hearing this. The worst truth about your brother. The worst truth about the hero of Gondor. And it's like, they don't get a chance to kill Sam because, believe me, they wanted to at that point. Look out. All right, we got some shit going on overhead. Frodo, what the hell's going on to you? I'm tripping balls, man. They're here. They've come.
The fucking Nazgul are so cool. They're so cool.
Freaking going in, man. It's like, oh shit. I love that though, how they did it with his voice. Yeah. And it's like,
then
dude,
you the screech.
Take a freaking Valium and sleep it off. Father
He can't. He's the reading bear.
Get in here and exorcise this demon. You freaking get Father James Woods from Scary Movie 2 and get him in here to exorcise this demon. Holy shit, that was creepy.
And this is the point in the movie where you see the rings hold on Frodo.
Yes.
Like, and what's crazy is, usually it takes time. Like, Gollum or Smeagol was a hobbit-like creature, and it took, several decades and whatnot for him to start turning. But the ring's power is getting stronger, and its hold is getting stronger. So it kind of makes you question, if anybody else had taken it, the Hobbit took it, because they don't really have any desire for power. And so the ring's effect on small folk isn't as great because they don't have, strong desires to do anything except drink mead, smoke their pipe, and have parties and garden. You know what I mean? That's their nature. So it really makes you question.
Gardener in Middle Earth.
Right. It really makes you question, if anyone else had gotten the ring, the damage it would have done. And there are really cool videos of nerds putting together okay, if Galadriel had gotten the ring, if Gandalf had taken it, and right, and it's nuts. So it's thank God a Hobbit had it the whole time, because holy crap.
Because here's the thing, as Gandalf told him, it's I would take this ring with a desire to do good, but through me it would wield a power too great and terrible to imagine.
Right,
He
and
understands
similarly,
the devastating effects.
right, and similarly, when Galadriel is tested, you know, she's like, instead of a Dark Lord, you would have a queen, you know, treacherous as the sea, you know, and she goes on to describe like what she would turn into, what she would become if she had taken it, and it's like, oh, thank God, it's a hobbit, like, you know.
Yep. And so then during this time, Treebeard's taking the Hobbit or Merry and Pippin north. It's like, oh, drop you off at the borders of your homeland. No, take you south instead. That would take you back by Isengard. Yeah, but we could slip through unknown. The further we are from danger, the lesser we are from harm. It's the it's the last thing he'll expect. Doesn't make sense to me, but you are very small, so south it is. And then he gets out there.
Memes from that
Fangorn.
too. Great.
Yeah, and it's like, and he's like, these little field mice, they would always try to. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
That scene, folks, gets me to frickin' tear up every time. Many of these trees were my friends.
Mhm.
Creatures I have known from nut and acorn. They had voices of their own.
You can hear the tremor in his voice and the pain
Mhm.
in his voice, and
Yeah.
it's a very moving scene. You know,
And when he's like, someone, a wizard should know better. And then when he roars, it's not just anger that he is, it's pain. It's all of that. And the woods are listening.
Everything.
The rest of Fangorn is listening, and they understand we will avenge our friends.
Mhm.
And this is a great, it's not an allegory from Tolkien, but Tolkien it was one of his greatest wishes that eventually nature would overcome humanity's destruction, because he is a naturalist. Unfortunately, that has not happened. One of the great quotes from Tolkien, not in his books, was what he said about the progress of man and technology. The worst invention ever from man was the internal combustion engine.
Yeah.
He was in he was in the last war that had men on horseback.
Yeah.
Which is
He
why
was in that trench
Rohan,
warfare. Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
But anyway, the ends start coming out, and they just realize there's nothing to say, nothing to do. Last march
they
of the
don't need
ends.
an
It is
Entmoot.
likely we are
Yeah,
going to our doom. But
Yep.
we will fight, or we will take this march, and we will take this fight to Isengard with a rock and stone. And I love folks, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but look up migrating trees. They fucking exist.
Dope.
Yeah.
Migrating trees.
Migrating trees. Look it up. You will see trees literally moving like this through the ground. It's not a joke.
It almost makes you think, because Tolkien, when he was writing out like the ages, so like this whole
Maybe
bit
he's
of
seen
like
it.
is the end of the third age, and then when Aragorn becomes king, it's like the beginning of the fourth age. And he had talked about how he believed that when he was alive, men were in like the fifth or sixth age, and there were only like 7 in
Yeah.
the cycle of his, like, how he thought life was. So like if we're in the 6th or 7th age, it like today, that means
Yeah.
like that like we need a world reset, is basically in his mind of like what the world looked like. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So then we see the death of Haldir, and when Aragorn is no longer Aragorn, he is Vigo, the scourge of all actors who play orcs, because he just jumps in and starts slaughtering. Folks, as we said in the last one, Vigo laid into people to the point where they were scared to be around him. And there was also this thing where they started doing the headbutt stuff behind the scenes, where they would say hi and do the little headbutt. Well, there was one time where I believe Vigo just grabbed a dude and just headbutted a dude so freaking hard he got knocked out. It's like, oh
I
shit.
love how seriously he took the role, even though he wasn't like the first choice. Like I think he got
Mhm.
hired like 2 weeks before shooting, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly. Like he wasn't. They weren't gonna cast him, and then he just owned this role. Like
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
he owned it. He is Aragorn. Like you know
Oh,
what I
yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
And so we then get them heading into the keep where they've broken in. And at this point, Theoden's been, or he's like, oh, the fortress is taking it, it's fucking over. You said this fortress would never fall while your men
Before you-
defend it. And he also is reminded of Tolkien, or not Tolkien's, but Gandalf's words, as the sun rises, look to my coming on first light of the fifth day. At dawn, look to the
Oh,
east.
look to the east.
And we get the famous line, and which I myself am going to recite, where Aragorn tells him, he's like, for Rohan, for your people, let this be the hour we draw swords together. Fell deeds awake. Now for wrath, now for ruin, and a red dawn. And that's when they break in. Now, when Gimli starts blowing the horn of Helm Hammerhand, dude, that my body just gets full freaking goosebumps. It's like, whoa. I want to blow a horn that big. Because
First
that
time I
thing is
watched
like,
it, I had freaking chills. I was like, holy shit.
oh yeah.
Well, the
And
funny
they
thing is
just
about
go
that
out.
horn.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The funny thing about that horn is, back in the olden days, so to speak, when the orcs or whatever were attacking Helm's Deep, they'd have somebody man that horn, they blow it and everything, and it would scare the freaking orcs because it was so loud and so bass, and it had such a bass tone to it. It would literally scare the orcs to death and everything, cause them to go into a panic. Now, of
Yep.
course,
Yeah,
with
there was
orcs,
like
that doesn't
magical
exactly
properties
work.
to it.
So to speak, because the thing you have to remember, Helm's Deep was actually built by the dwarves.
Mhm,
In the
mhm.
book and everything, in the book, Gimli does remark about the fact that I don't remember which clan or whatever it was of the dwarves, but they were friends with Helm Hammerhand, who was a king of Rohan once upon a time.
Yep.
And he had good relations with the dwarves, and they did a good turn or something for him. And the dwarves were like, we're going to build you a fortress.
Yep.
That's good dwarvish craftsmanship when you see, and that's why it lasts as long as it did, except for the damn dynamite. Screw you, Saruman, you cheat.
Yep.
You can't
And
throw a fortress out dynamite, you don't deserve to have the fortress.
Anyway,
so.
they ride out, and man, they're slicing into him, dude. You see one freaking orc's helmet just slice like this, and it's like, oh shit. And then when you see them running down the hill, the Rohirrim, it's like, just make sure that none of you hit the brakes, because if you do, you're dead. And the light just comes down. It's not the light from Gandalf, it's the sun. And the orcs or the Urics may not have love for day or can handle daylight, but they did not expect the timing, and that is so great. So when you get
That shout that Gandalf's giving.
Yep. And then when you get the cut to Osgiliath, where Frodo is about to give it up to
the Rays,
to the Rays, and he gets saved by Sam, and yet he pulls the knife on him, or he pulls Sting on him. He's like, "Don't you remember you're Sam?" He's like, "I can't do this, Sam." And Sam gives the greatest freaking speech. I can't recite the whole thing, and we're not going to, but it is such a great freaking thing. And he tells him, and he's like, "Well, what are we holding on to, Sam? That there is some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for."
I think some of these emotional like lines that were written of like, I wish I weren't born, when in the first one when Frodo's talking to Gandalf. Yeah, like all of these emotional moments of like great speech hopes moments, I really feel like they came from Tolkien's experience in the war, where obviously he felt the same way of like, I wish this war had never come upon us, or like I can't do this anymore. And then these beautiful moments in the films and in the books like stemmed from conversations he probably had with people in the trenches, trying to keep their hopes up and stuff. And so, like, to me, it's really emotional when I think about that as well. Like, not that it's not emotional on its own, but like if you give the backstory of like where he wrote from, you're like, wow, this is really impactful as far as like, just it's true to today. Like if you ever face hard times and you're like, what am I even doing this for? And it's, there's some good in this world and it's worth fighting for. It's worth holding on to. And it's just a beautiful, these moments are so beautiful.
Yeah. And apparently it was built by Gondor, or the fortress.
I could have swore Helm's Deep was built by dwarves. I could swear.
Originally, the fortress was built by Gondorians. I guess maybe the dwarves had a hand in reinforcing it.
Maybe they did.
Who knows? Anyway, yeah, in the Battle for Middle-earth games, Gimli had a powerful leaping ability. Yeah, because nobody tosses a dwarf. But getting to our victory at Helm's Deep, we now go to Isengard, where all the fucking Ents are just ripping, man. Now, I love, because they didn't want to scare the kids, or they didn't want to make the kids sad. You have that one that is getting chopped on, and you have freaking Treebeard save him, but you also have the one that caught on fire survive by running into the water.
To the water? Yes.
Yeah.
I was worried about that guy the first time I saw it.
Right? Same. So when they break the dam and release the river, you see one Ent holding an orc or in the hand. He's like, oh, fuck, I was planning on eating this bastard. Throws him into the river.
Throws him into it, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, just throws him in. And it's like, I love that. And then you see freaking Saruman. Now, Saruman is at the Wall of Orthanc, in that area where he addressed the Yurks to send them out. When you see him turn to see the river being unleashed, that's him on top of Orthanc, if you really pay attention. And that's actually the angle in which he is addressing Wormtongue before he smacks Wormtongue in the next movie. That's literally him turning to say, "Get down, Kerr." And but yeah, at this point, Saruman's like, what the fuck is going on here? I mean, I just love that he's coming out and he's like, what?
He's completely flabbergasted.
Yeah,
he didn't understand because he called for the destruction. He called for the destruction of Fangorn, which I turned into a GIF, by the way. Burn it. It's because whenever I see those idiots with the saying this or that, it's like, burn it. But yeah, it's like, or that dude that plays that orc that tells me, he's like, we don't got enough fuel to feed the fires. I swear to God, I could see who it is underneath that freaking makeup, but I don't know the name. You know? And so we then get their victory and Merry and Pippin. I love that he sees the freaking apple and he's like, he looks up like the first movie when he gets smacked in the face with an apple.
Yeah. And then the extended editions too, like when they're in that like little room, I'm like, bro, they are smoking weed. Like, you cannot convince me otherwise. Like,
they lit up.
Well, not to mention they find a big ass turkey.
Yeah, they find a freaking roast turkey. And it's like, then they say, I don't. And it's reflecting, the water's reflecting off their faces. So it's like they found this heavenly thing. It's like, I don't believe it. It's self-farthing, freaking long leaf.
Yeah, you can't convince me that Tolkien wasn't a stoner. Like, come on.
Oh yeah, he was. He smoked tobacco from a pipe. I mean, just look at all those photos of him. But yeah, he's like, do you think we should share it with Treebeard? Share it. No, Dead Plants and all that. It might be a distant relative. In the books, they actually do smoke with Treebeard.
Yes. which is
he talks up
Forgot
too.
about that.
He's like,
Sure.
yeah,
you guys gonna share, motherfuckers, or what?
yeah.
It's like,
And
"Yeah,
I,
my pipe is like this fucking long.
now I think about it, I know I meant
He
I
pulled
know I
it out of
mentioned
his
it a while
head.
ago, but that part was
Yeah.
the part that we'll get into with book 3, with them with the rest of the crew finding Merry and Pippin. That was in book 2, but
Yeah.
I just love the way how when Gimli is like berating those two at first,
Yeah.
but in the book, when they're talking about smoking, Gandalf is simply telling Theoden, he's like, "You have no idea what you just walked into. You do not want to engage with these hobbits about certain things because they'll just keep going on and on for hours. It's
Yes.
like they won't shut up."
Yeah.
He's just simply telling him, "Don't even bother. You can just save it for some other time." And just
Yeah.
We
Just
got
nod and
shit to do
smile.
right
Yeah.
now.
Just smile and
Otherwise, we'd
wave,
be here
boys.
all day. And so we also have after they managed to save Osgiliath, Faramir is like, I think we finally understand each other, Frodo Baggins. And so he's like, you know the laws of our country, the laws of your father. If you let them go, your life is forfeit. Then it's forfeit. Release him. And so they take him out and he's like, where we go when you reach the city? Gollum knows a way in the Mordor through Minas Morgul. Kirsungul? Is that its name? And he's like, no. Yes! You can't go that way. There's a dark terror under that resides up there. Master says, we must go to Mordor, so we must try. Well, then go, Frodo, and take the goodwill of all men with you. Yep. And I also like what Sam says to Faramir. He's like, Captain Faramir, you have shown your quality, the very highest. Which, believe it or not, is actually very important to Faramir because, well, he's not getting any of Daddy's love. So,
Yeah.
You know
But he's
his
proved
daddy?
his worth to everyone else.
oh yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And so he grabs Gollum. May death find you quickly if you bring them to harm. Because he knows that this is a trap. He knows that this thing is probably going to kill him. But at this point, yes, Gollum is ready to, or is willing to, in the movies, he's like, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. I am going to betray these fuckers. They betrayed me.
No,
Because he's now discussing, even though they didn't, you are absolutely right.
Stupid ass.
But perception. Perception is
But
how
in
he
his,
handled it.
yeah. But if
In
he,
his
yeah,
mind.
in his
Yeah,
perspective,
yeah, I get it. I get it.
So then he starts talking about her and how he can let her kill them. And we don't know who her is unless we've seen or read the books, which we know is Ungoliant's favorite daughter, Shelob. And well, we will get to that one when we get to it, folks, because then we see
next week.
Yep, next week. And before we get going, we got 1s and 2s on Wednesday with Mara. I do. And Thursday, me and Mara are discussing for singles The Crow. I got some juicy trivia for that one, folks. So definitely make sure you tune in for that. Now, before we get going, I'm going to let people plug their channels. Is there anything you want to plug before we go, Kate?
Can I plug Remember, the 5th of November? That's all I have.
It is November the 5th. Well, for the next hour and a half. Or if you guys can, watch, or if you're living in California, you can. So watch V for Vendetta, good movie.
Or Gunpowder, which is an HBO miniseries about Robert Catesby and the whole thing. It's 3 episodes, but very good. But yeah, V for Vendetta or Gunpowder on HBO.
Now you guys mentioned about that, I remember though when I finally got a chance to watch it for the first time, I was so surprised and like really impressed by the whole film. And I mean, besides the parallels and all that, but the fact that Hugo Weaving just did the voiceover for that one character the entire time, just and the dialogue and how he delivers it, I was like, oh my freaking gosh, he's good.
Have you done
Like,
a
I was-
review on V for Vendetta, Orange?
Yes, I did actually. It
Okay,
was
I'll have to look that up.
it was one of my, or I'll send you the link after
Yeah,
the
yeah,
stream.
Yeah, DM me
Me
the
and,
link because great movie.
believe-
I did as well.
Me and
So
Michelle and
yeah, send me the
from,
link, Ambassador.
Me and
Sure.
Michelle from Force of Light Entertainment discussed it.
Oh, they just had a new one because Michelle had seen it, but they just did a first
Natalie
time
hasn't.
viewing with
Yes, I
Natalie.
thought-
Yeah, they just posted it today. So
Oh, nice! Because yeah, me and Michelle discussed it on my channel that day, or back when
Yeah,
I was doing single.
Natalie
streams.
hadn't seen it. Yeah, she
Yeah.
hadn't seen it, so it was a first time review for her, and it was pretty good. So I'll plug
It's
them.
actually, folks. Fun thing is that film is very relevant to the last few years.
Yeah, if you look at
Yeah.
2020, and then yep.
But yeah, we won't go any further into it. That is a thing for another time. Is there anything you want to plug, Ambassador? Next.
Not at the moment. No, just go check out my channel. I've got a lot of stuff up there, mostly movie reviews because, well, I like movies. That's why I'm here. So,
Same.
All right, and Skyhound.
Yeah, I know I mentioned to you before, Orange, about this coming Saturday, but I decided to I'm going to have to really pull, I don't know if I would say an all-nighter, but I'm going to be covering not just Mask of the Phantasm in honor of the late Kevin Conroy, but I myself will also be covering my favorite Justice League Unlimited epilogue, which of course does draw reference to that film.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned like a few hours ago, I did a little quote from that episode where Amanda Waller says, I argued with her, but deep down I knew she was right. People say that Batman's obsessive, that he would use any means of trying to achieve his goals, but he would never resort to murder. So if I was to honor all that he stood for, neither could I. Just the writing on that episode.
Yeah.
I probably watched it almost 50 times and I never get tired of it.
All right. So that is when? This upcoming Saturday?
This upcoming Saturday, yeah. I'll be
All
covering
right. I will
Nice.
definitely be there to join you for that. So anyway, folks, thank you so much. Thank you to the people in the chat. Epimay the Oz,
No, Riot Kitty was in there.
Gypsy
Right?
Geek Freak, Riot Kitty, Price is Right, Elena Na, Neozoic, Geek Detective Pierce, Christian Freights, Riot Kitty, Fuck Norris,
was in there as well.
Yeah, Elena, Ambassador Wing, yeah. And Davian Donaldson, thank you all for tuning in. How would you guys rate this movie out of 10? We'll start ladies first. Kate.
Oh, all of these movies are a 15 out of 10 for me, subjectively speaking. But objectively speaking, as far as like cinematography and storytelling and whatnot, I would say it's a good 9.5 out of 10. The only inconsistency I would say would be Smeagol / Gollum's, like, it doesn't make sense the way that they changed his character only in this one, when he's like, I'm not going to betray them, but he had always planned to bring them to Shelob, so that there was just a tiny bit of inconsistency there, but that's obviously due to the change in his character a little bit from the books. But this movie is still very much enjoyable to this day. It still holds up. The CGI, the pacing of it, fantastic film.
All right. And this is a fun fact from Epi, the Oz. Between Ian Holm and Brad Dourif, these are the only two actors who were both in Lord of the Rings and Alien movies.
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of people forget that Brad Dourif was in Alien Resurrection.
I didn't forget. I
Yep.
just don't watch the movie.
Yeah. Anyway, as for me, oh wait, did you did you two on the bottom score it yet? Skyhound and Ambassador?
No.
Not yet, I
this
don't
one,
think.
All right, then
I
score it.
have to say, on the cinematography side, I'd say that we're pretty much in accord, Kate and I. Now, as for subjectively, I would definitely give this one at best maybe like 11 or 12 out of 10. Like in terms of how it really progresses, not just the story, but also we get to see like how not just the character development, but how does each person, I mean, not each person, each, I guess I could say group handles, their given situation and how, yes, you have problems, but how you push through that depends on, the individual.
Right.
Mm-hmm. All right. Ambassador.
For me,
this series of movies, because they're split into 3 movies, but I look at this as one whole movie because it originally was one whole book and then got split up in 3, or the other way around. But just as the middle chapter, it's one of the strongest middle chapters in cinema. Just on its own, it's a solid 9. But if you together with the other 2 movies, it's a 10. And the only reason I give it 1 point less is because it leaves you hanging, but at the same time, it leaves you in a good place. It's a cliffhanger. It's not anticlimactic cliffhanger, unlike the Death Slideshow Smaug. Oh dear heaven, I hate to move the end of that movie.
All right.
Go into geeker rage. But anyway, 2 Towers.
So
it's a 10.
all right. As for me, objectively, this movie is a 9 out of 10. There are inconsistencies, there are errors, there are a few things here and there that could have been touched up a little bit better. Which comes with the territory when it comes to any movie, really. These are small little goofs that they have. But it still does drop the objective quality. Subjectively, this movie is definitely way more than a 10 or way more than a 10 out of 10. It's like a 20 out of 10 for me, man.
2 thumbs way up.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I really do enjoy the Battle of Helm's Deep. I do also enjoy the next movie where I do enjoy the Battle of Helm's Deep the most when it comes to the battles. Fellowship of the Ring is more fantasy, which I love the fantasy elements. Where Return of the King next week, I enjoy that more on an emotional level.
Yeah.
Because that movie gets really deep, and we will be discussing it pretty much for 3 hours, easily, like we have this one and the last one. So I will definitely be cutting off here, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Y'all are freaking amazing, beautiful people. Tuesday, I have Jason Bourne Tuesdays, so I will be discussing the Bourne Identity. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and thank you so much for the Fellowship of Bourne chat here. We will be coming back next week for Return of the King, and Saturday I'll be on Skyhound's channel for the discussion into Batman and Mask of the Phantasm and the epilogue, so to Justice League Unlimited. So thank you all so much. Y'all are freaking awesome. Have a wonderful night, and always remember, stay humble.